meetings and electing city officials. We're grateful also for those that have served in law enforcement and also in the military, those that have served and those who are currently serving. We pray for their safety and thank thee for their dedication and for their willingness to serve in those capacities. We're grateful for the moisture that we've received and pray that that will continue to provide the snow on the mountaintops that we need to get us through the summer. We are grateful for the moderate rain that we haven't had serious flooding in this area as well. We pray that thy spirit might be with us. We pray that this council might make prudent decisions that will affect and benefit the residents of this town. And thank thee for the blessing of living in this town amongst wonderful people. And give you thanks in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, our next item is approval of the agenda order. And I would move that we change the order and move item number E ahead of D. So change the order of D and E. That will allow our sheriff not to have to sit through a lengthy presentation and leave if he has other responsibilities. So I would move that we would go ahead and switch the order of D and E. Anyone second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next is the review and consent of the meeting minutes for February 7th. I didn't see those. Are they done now? We didn't see them? Okay. So I need a motion to table consent agenda item C1.
Yeah, I make a motion that we table the review of the minutes of February 7th.
Okay, in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I skipped B2, and we'll go back to that, disclosures and declarations of conflicts from city members and the mayor. Are there any disclosures that need to be rendered tonight?
None.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, we will go ahead and move over to our city department reports. And we will start with Stanley Consulting, and they're not here this evening, correct?
They submitted drone footage.
Okay, so Daisy, do you have that drone that would replace the presentation? How long is that?
1 minute, 41 seconds.
Mhm. No music this time?
You could do the narrative.
Yeah, we're like coming,
Yeah, yeah.
there's the bridge.
You know that trail better than I do, Stacy.
I could point out where I crashed.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of pavement that needs to be done.
It's nice to see all that snow on Pine Valley Mountain though, isn't it?
It is.
It was pretty.
Yeah, there's still a lot of pavement to be laid.
Yeah. Yeah, all that stockpile right there that they've got, material. A lot of that material goes up to the north end.
Okay. So Daisy cut it short, so it wasn't a 2-hour drone video. So now we can move on to you, Sheriff.
I would like to hear some music with it next time.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
So speaking of the Parkway, it sounds like there might be a little delay going on there. Do you guys have any anticipated completion date?
Do you have any officers that are willing to hold the slope together for us?
Maybe.
24/7?
It's all about the grade, right?
Yeah.
They just would have thought about the grade.
That's right.
So just checking in. When I run stats, I'll just pick whatever today's date is and I'll go back 12 months. So today I picked it and we had 512 calls for service in Tokerville in the last 12 months. I think it's up about 60. I believe it was about 450. And, that fluctuates between winter and summertime hours. Usually we're busier with DUI arrests and family fights in the summertime for some reason. Some things are happening at the sheriff's office. So we just created a new training sergeant position. Representative Wilcox, one of our state representatives, has been running a bill that's getting very strong support for state security chief, which is going to oversee county security chiefs. So this new sergeant's going to be doing training, but then he's going to be responsible for a new safety program the state's putting in. So the goal is the county school safety officers will work with the state safety officer to create some consistency throughout the state. And the end goal is to have an armed individual in every school in the county. That includes private elementary schools, intermediate and middle schools. So it's going to be kind of a big undertaking. The bill puts the responsibility on me to train those individuals. So we have school resource officers, but the cities aren't going to be able to afford to put a full-time school resource officer in every school. So like the state of Florida, they're looking at a guardian program to where they'd have citizen volunteers that would fill that spot to have somebody with a firearm in the school at all times.
So state's not providing any supplemental.
So I think it's going to take a year or two to kind of put things together. There's unanswered questions. Obviously the biggest ones are liability and who's paying for it. Right. So we're still kind of working through some of that. So far, the only money they've allocated is to give those guardians $500 to buy a gun. So they're not talking about any funding, which is kind of worrisome for the counties if we end up having to eat that. But we support it. I mean, we're never going to be against a bill that would be anything to do with school safety, right? We're going to support that. There's just some fine tuning we need to do. We recently added a new canine. So we've had 2 canines, and those 2 dogs are specific to patrol apprehension and drug. This new dog is going to be assigned to search and rescue. So we had a great group in the community that donated $15,000 to purchase the new dog, and the dog is going to be full-time with search and rescue operations. So this dog is going to be trained up to do cadaver scent and human tracking. So that's something pretty fresh. We're still working on our medical expansion. So in 1998, we built a 450-bed jail, right? Purgatory Correctional Facility. It cost us $10.5 million. We're adding another wing that was 64 beds, and we're already looking about $23 million to make that happen. But we anticipate breaking ground on that next month. We've been almost 2 years now in planning, and anything correctional grade becomes very expensive. We thought we were going to be about $550 a square foot, but we're about $850 a square foot. So
Wow.
a single jail door is $14,000. I know the Drug Task Force has served a couple search warrants in your communities. One was maybe 6 months ago, Mr. Bulo. He just pled to a 5-year prison sentence in the federal pen, so he'll be out of your community for at least 5 years. So yeah, we're always just actively looking at problem houses, and just really appreciate the working relationship we have with Tokerville. So, Afton's been great too.
Thanks.
You guys are lucky to have Afton. She works hard.
Thanks.
Bing's
You do
that I'm from California.
Yeah.
It's great not to have a graffiti problem.
Yes. Well, I mean, St. George City gets it, but they take care of it so quick that people don't even know.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
we get a little bit down to Confluence Park, but we're quick to take care of that. So yeah, if we stay on top of it, it'll demotivate those wanting to do it. If they see that every time they do it, it's gone the next day, then that'll make it so they don't really want to do it anymore. So
And phone calls between me, when I call him, I usually say, hey, I heard a rumor. How freaked out do I need to be? And he's like, we got it
Yeah,
2
we
weeks
got
ago. He's like, you're 2 weeks too late. So
yeah,
they're aware of it long before we are. So we appreciate that.
yeah.
Great appreciation and respect. for
Thank
what
you.
do.
Any specific questions or concerns for me?
No, as you know, this is a pretty safe town to live in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
The whole county is for the most part, right?
yeah, so,
Yeah, the only thing that we really hear is that from our construction crews down on the south end, that if you do see, kind of as people come through there, they're still going a little bit
Speeding
too
through there,
fast.
okay.
Yeah, and especially because there's the construction, but then we have Trail Ridge Estates and Choya. So just if you do have officers that can just kind of keep an eye on that.
Okay.
People coming through the construction too fast.
Yeah, I put out
So
some.
like crime, but they
emails.
just have to slow down through the construction for JP's guys.
Okay.
That's been
And they-
their request at our safety meetings on
they
Thursdays.
should have put a different speed limit sign out. The
That's the state though, that, and they can only lower the speed limit 10 miles per hour. So they found that if an officer is there, that it slows it down
Oh, for sure.
even more. So, yeah, they tried to do that. They really can't reduce the speed limit anymore.
We can smarten people up pretty quick if we want to.
Yeah, it seemed to have a big effect down there by Trail Ridge and Choya when you have an officer, so.
How many schools in Washington County?
About 160.
That's a lot.
If you're looking at private and
That's a lot of resources.
intermediate and yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
that's a big project then.
Thank
It
you for
is.
coming. I got a quick question.
Okay.
Is there a way for our residents where we can see like on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, activity within the city?
So we've been sending, I believe,
We get a
I think
lot.
Daisy gets,
in some-
we're doing quarterly reports. So every
Okay.
quarter, so like Enterprise, the smaller communities that we contract with, we're sending quarterly reports out. But I could look and see if we could do something monthly something that you could share on like your page, right?
On our
Your
webpage or
webpage.
something like that. I mean, if you look at like Hurricane,
yeah.
and they've sent out a weekly Facebook page
Yeah.
that lists what their activity has been for that week. Nothing specific.
Yeah.
but just
Call volume.
The
yeah, call
types, like,
volume and type
how
of
many-
calls.
yeah.
How
How many
many-
family fights
how-
we're responding to, how many warrant arrests, how many drug arrests.
Yeah, how many
many
traffic
animal problems?
stops, how many tickets, that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah.
Is that something that
I think we can put it together. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. I'll just, I can get my clerical staff to do that on a more regular basis and find a way for you to be able to put that out on your page as well.
maybe our new website or something or whatever works. That'd be great.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Easy ask.
All right.
Thank you.
And Dean, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I live right above Confluence Park. I can see the whole Confluence Park
Mhm.
everywhere. And during the summer, and I see the parties going on at 4 o'clock in the morning. I see the fights.
Are they down by the old house?
I can see all the way down there, but I can hear, and some are down by the old dairy.
Okay,
Some are kind of right below my property where they're hiding the trees and stuff.
okay.
And so.
Don't hesitate to call us. We'll look at it every time. But I believe, don't they close that gate after dark? But they're still,
The gate's closed.
okay, are they coming in from the hurricane side maybe?
Yeah, because
Okay.
Hurricane's on this side, I can see Hurricane's on this side.
Yeah,
I can see both sides and I watch what's going on.
yeah, don't hesitate to call and we'll get people down there.
A lot of times at 4 o'clock in the morning, there's things going on.
Okay. Well, if they're out there at 4 o'clock in the morning, there probably isn't up to much good, right? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much. We
Sheriff.
appreciate
Thanks
you
for
and
moving
your
me up on the
organization.
agenda too.
Okay, our next report is from Afton,
Yeah.
our city manager.
Yep. And so normally we give this report at the first council meeting, but I was gone. And so I've already reported this at Planning Commission. And most of it, there's a few additions to this. We're trying to report it at the first Planning Commission meeting of the month too, so that we can hear. So the report that I gave at Planning Commission, starting with the financial report, Keddington and Christensen, they performed our on-site annual audit in December, which City Council knows that we successfully passed that. We presented it to you and it's been accepted. We scored high on separation of duties. Assessment showed low fraud risk, high marks for documentation and compliance. And the financial report at this time, 66% of the year has elapsed, 64% of the revenue is received, and we've only spent 63% of the budget, so that spending is on track. Our expenses are audited regularly and reconciled by Hinton Burdick. The next major expense that we are going to be asking City Council to explore is going to be a generator for Town Hall. We're in the process of gathering quotes on those. We have two. We're looking at a third. We're looking both into propane and natural gas. So that's an expense that we'll be asking to have considered. On the community report, code enforcement, we are working with the city attorney just to move forward on criminalizing the code. As you know, our city attorney, our former city attorney, Heath Snow, is no longer here. We do have a city prosecutor and we're working on engaging, and we have entered into an MOU with the courts to be able to prosecute. The top 5 ordinances that we are working on and are lighting, vicious dogs, the nuisance, including drugs, unlicensed nightly rentals, land use violations, including grading without a permit. We should have a new city attorney selected by March 6th. We are accepting requests for proposals until the 20th. They just closed. And so we're going to be doing interviews on the 27th. And we'll see. We currently have 3 that have put in for that. So we've got 3 firms that have put in for that. So we'll be conducting those. Our State of the City address is coming up. That's going to be listed on our events. The State of the City is something that has not been done here before. The surrounding cities do it. Obviously the governor does, the State of the State, and then they've asked that cities do a State of the City address. Things that we are going to be addressing in there that have taken a lot of effort. We have addressed plans heavily. And some of those plans that we've addressed are the general plan, the capital facilities plan, the annexation policy plan, the water conservation plan, the culinary water master plan, and now we're starting into our master transportation plan. Projects that we've completed under our capital facilities, or we have brought culinary water to Anderson Junction. We are completing an AMI water conversion. We have our Westfield Park under construction. We have the West Offsite Water Tank under construction. That's a 2 million gallon water tank on the west side of Tokerville. We have installed cameras on all of our tanks. We have completed a TSWS analysis that is telling us the state of our secondary water system. We've had Sunrise Engineering complete a hydraulic analysis on our Springs Drive tank so that we could see if that tank could be bypassed just due to its age. We have completed all of our crack seal for the 2nd year in a row with Holbrook Asphalt. The realignment of Highway 91, that project is complete. The Parkway is ongoing. And one thing that we wanted to point out on some of these are that typically these projects, like crack seal, general maintenance of the city, typically those are completed with property tax. And so to complete this many projects, it would be anticipated that we would have a property tax increase. However, in Tokerville, we have been able to do this without increasing property tax or water rates. And the way that we've been able to do that is that we've mostly offset this with grants. We've cut spending and funding. We have addressed our uniform fee schedule, as you'll see later on the agenda. You guys, the council, you're no stranger to the uniform fee schedule. So we started charging fees, comparing them to other cities, seeing what they're doing. Charging for development and services. We've obviously reduced spending in other areas and then offset others with grants. So that is a huge accomplishment and speaks volumes to obviously the staff and everybody that works hard on that, but also the Planning Commission for getting ordinances in place that, that are responsible as far as land use, and then the council obviously looking at the budget, looking at expenditures, and also just being supportive with and open-minded to grants and funding sources. So we're continuing with our AMI water meter conversion. We have received those. We have over 500 of those in the ground. So we have about 220 to still put in the ground. We've received the majority of those, and they are putting them in as fast as they can get them in. So we anticipate that project will be done in probably the next 2 months. So that's been really great. We've had lots of people download the app. If you have received a new water meter and you're having any trouble, this is for the public, please call the city and let us know. So far, we've had people call and say, hey, my app is telling me that I have a leak or things. So it's been really helpful. We haven't received any negative feedback about what is this or why do I have that? But we do want to remind the public of 2 things. One, that if you do have your new water meter in, you can download that app to monitor and track your usage and spot and identify leaks early on. And then also with that, if you can sign up for Express Bill Pay and pay your bills online. So those are two things that we wanted to just quickly remind people of. An update on the Westfield Park. Phase 1 is under construction, and that includes the restroom and the site grading. So that infrastructure is currently under construction. There will be a minimal detour on Westfield just as they cross the roadway up there. As you know, last year, I guess, which was be technically kind of a phase 1 on that, we completed the bigger kid playground and the shade structure, and we've completed the Little Tykes playground and the shade structure for that, and the restrooms are currently under construction. The next phase will be the pavilion and the grass, and then the next phase will be paid for out of RAP tax, which is Recreation, Arts, and Parks tax. That comes back to us from the county, and so we have been saving that for a couple of years so that we can put in the pickleball courts with those. When we put that project out to bid, several contractors came back. One of those is Wayne, that's on council, gave us some feedback about doing post-tension for our pickleball courts. And so that was helpful. We took that into consideration. And so those are going to be bid out in the next phase. So we're excited that we've got the funds for that. So that's kind of an update on the Westfield Park. If you drive by it, you'll see it's a construction zone. They've got Creative Excavation up there doing that work. So Phase B of the Parkway. There was a big discussion about this, and we reported in Planning Commission some of the questions that residents had, just increasing transparency. One of our city council members asked if I could just give a brief description of this to kind of keep this open to the public, of them having an understanding of the way that the Parkway works, of the funding, and that council member was Todd Sands. He asked if I could give a brief description of how that project works. And so I know the council's aware of it, but for the general public, the Tokerville Parkway project out west is that's about 5 miles of highway. That is a public-private partnership where the funding was given. That's going to be the new state route. So the funding was given from the Utah State Legislature to build that road. And then the developer put in funds as well through a public improvement district, public infrastructure district. And so Tokerville City is not paying for that road. I know there has been a lot of discussion of if that's coming out of Tokerville citizen tax dollars, or if it is not, it is not. This was a one-time appropriation by the Utah State Legislature out of their general fund, so out of transportation. So that's how the funding model for that works. So when there are changes that happen on the road, there are job changes, those change orders are approved by both UDOT, the Utah Department of Transportation, and they're approved by the city council. And so we have to work together and fine tune that. So even if there is a change order that someone sees on the agenda or has a question about, you're more than welcome to call the city and we can talk about those. But at the end of the day, the main thing that we do want to stress is that that project is not being paid for by Tokerville taxpayers. I guess in theory, all government money, right, is taxpayer dollars. But what I'm saying is this is coming out of the state's budget, not Tokerville City's property tax. So that's critical to understand that some of these big numbers kind of scare people. This project it's a $38 million project, a little bit over. And so we see some of these change orders on there. So we just wanted to help the public understand the funding sources and the model of the Parkway. We had questions about what's happening with, there was a not to exceed $600,000 change order on the cut. One thing we wanted to just address is that is an active, ongoing construction site. So we would ask that people please stay away from the cut. It looks really cool where those stream channels are that you can see, but we do ask that you stay away from there. What was happening on there, and you'll see on the agenda, we have engaged AGEC. They have a landslide rockfall expert on staff. And we have engaged AGEC to come down and monitor that and give us some suggestions on what to do, because the top of that cut, that slope is moving. And so the change order that we did for that not to exceed 600,000 was to push the dirt before it fell. And so that was the recommendation, and that was what went through council and both through UDOT. So that's where we are with the cut. So I guess I think that kind of answers it. We expect to have some recommendations from AGC in April, and then they can put those into effect. And so hopefully the parkway will be, 3-4 months. But I mean, it could go till July or August. So a lot of it depends on the recommendations from AGC at this point. So, but yeah, if people have questions, please give us a call. The other thing we wanted to say is that the water tank agreement has been signed with the state of Utah to construct the 2 million gallon tank on the west side of Tokerville. So we're excited about that. That was a $4.5 million grant. And the other thing is Sapp Brothers, that is under construction for grading up by Anderson Junction, right across from Settlers Junction. So that project the grading is underway. Jerry Eves is going to be beginning work on the west side of the freeway, and he'll start grading soon. So he's gone through the preliminary plat phase. So that's kind of an update about what's going on around town. And under economic growth, just to let you know, the mayor and I sit on the AAC for the water district at the Washington County Water Conservancy District. That's an advisory committee where we make recommendations, and then it goes before their board. One of those was Virgin is wanting to join the water district. The recommendation was that if they are considered to join the water district, that they would have to join Ash Creek Special Service District, the sewer district first, and in addition to, prior to joining the water district. So they were having a city council meeting tonight also to see what they decide, if they're going to join Ash Creek or not. So we attended the What's Up Down South. The main messages there were addressing housing shortages and economic development and tourism. And so we attended also the Dixie Transportation Expo. That event happens annually. It's put on by the city of St. George. And some of the main highlights that so we get the chance to present what roadways are happening in Tokerville, but then we also get asked questions from others about how we feel about different things. The hot topic that they wanted to know about was how Tokerville feels about a road to Leeds coming up in the coming years, within the next 10 to 12 years. That was a major conversation. The next thing we wanted to do was just show our new website, an overview of that. This will be live on February 28th. And I think Daisy has the link for that. I think she's got it right there. But while she pulls that up, I'll just tell you a couple of things we're going to be talking about at the state of the city, also projects that we've completed. Gage Mills, we wanted to recognize him that he has become certified in backflow and cross connection. So he is going to be overseeing our cross connection program for the city with backflow preventers. And so he's going to be overseeing that. We're going to have to see who's got them, who doesn't have them. They'll go out and do the inspection, and then residents will be required to submit on a yearly basis from a third party that they do have backflow prevention, just securing our water system. It's a requirement of the state. It's not a Tokerville thing. It's a requirement of the state. So this is our new website, and this is how we've gone so far. So you can see the tabs we've got up at the front. We've got meeting agendas, the building permits, city code. Yeah, you can pay your bills online. A link to those plans, all those plans that we've been updating. And you'll have the history of Tokerville. That's a new tab that we added. We got some feedback that we thought that was important, that we added the history of Tokerville to our website. And then I wrote a report of concern, or you can go up to I want to. And if you go to I want to and click on that, you'll be able to see this is where you can apply for a permit, submit, view. So it'll be exciting to have this. With this website, we were talking about this in staff meeting. Days, if you want to scroll down, you'll see that the flyers will be there too. And then if you scroll down a little more, we're going to have the city calendars so that people can see what's on here. We anticipate that once we roll this out, as with all things with technology, we'll probably have to do updates and tweaks and, fix some bugs and things, but we're excited about how it's going. We have received most of the bios back. So we're uploading the bios and uploading photos of council and staff. So those are kind of the final tweaks, and then we'll launch it. So we're excited about that. The last thing that we have is just to let you know that we are currently, the LPC is a legislative policy committee, and obviously the legislative session is in right now. They're in session, the legislature's in session. And so we've been watching several bills. There are a couple of them that are coming before them that we're tracking. A major one is this House bill, it's 13, and it is addressing infrastructure districts, and the option of changing them from a public infrastructure district to just an infrastructure district, which would essentially move the city out of that and turn it over that developers would have the ability to go bond. It's been a major one. If you get the chance to read through that, that's infrastructure financing districts is something we're tracking quite closely. There are a few water bills in there that we're checking. There are some like on homelessness and property rights and some things like that. But a couple that we would tell you that maybe to take a couple of looks at, that House Bill 13 is one. One that we're tracking is Senate Bill 86. That has to do with how local governments bond. Where we are checking we're checking on, let me get to the next one. There's some election, there's one that has to do with elections. That's one that we've got Daisy watching, and it's Senate Bill 37. That's municipal and special districts election amendments. So we're tracking to see what's going on with those. Yeah, there's some things for that local government fee modifications that we're tracking. That's House Bill 367. And then we are also tracking House Bill 289, that's property rights, the ombudsman amendments. So we're seeing what's going on with that one. And then they've got some additions to the residential building inspection amendments. That's Senate Bill 185. So that's important. And we're tracking Senate Bill 168, that's affordable housing. And then there are some water bills that we're looking at. And one of them is House Bill 61. Senate Bill 18, those are water modifications. Senate Bill 39, those are the water shareholder amendments. And then they have two that are unnumbered. One is water-related changes. And this is one that says it would require that various state agencies, including the Division of Drinking Water and Division of Water Resources and Division of Water Quality, it would require them to develop annual water infrastructure plans. So we think that's interesting. There's another unnumbered water bill that is water usage amendments. And this would prohibit the watering of lawn or turf between October 1st and April 1st in counties. This one is for the Great Salt Lake, but what's happens there finds its way down, right, with water conservation. So that's one that we're watching, even though it's not for our county specifically, but that's one that we're watching. So it's also an unnumbered. But anyway, so I know that's a longer update, but just that's a lot of what's happening around the city, and just wanted to kind of provide that transparency for people of what's going on.
Just a couple questions, Afton. With the ordinance enforcement, our ordinance enforcement officer is part-time, right?
It's on, yeah, well, it's part-time, but it's actually, the way that we're paying them is on assignment. So it's not part-time like they work for 20 hours. It's no more than 28 hours. And so if the citizens submit a complaint, we go through those complaints and then that's how they get assigned out. Primarily right now, we're focusing, like I said, on the dogs ordinance.
Right.
We've been working with Laverkin. We pay them for animal control.
Right.
But there's certain times that they can't come get them. If their shelter's full, then they can't do that. So we contacted Hurricane City and had a conversation with them for them to send an officer. They ran the numbers for them to send the officers out here to use their shelter to pick up dogs. That it's more than 3 times the price of what we're paying for Laverkin. So we're working through on that one to figure out who can come get vicious dogs. Obviously, the sheriff will respond if a dog is attacking somebody, but if it's on the loose or it's just, ripping up your garden or it's doing things like that, and we would call animal control. If they're full, they can't take it. So that is one major thing that we are. So still submit your complaints, even if it seems like they're not being done. We are trying to find ways to address those. We're focusing a lot right now on the nuisance ordinance, which includes drugs. We've got quite a bit going on with the sheriff's office, behind the scene there on that.
So has our ordinance enforcement officer written any citations yet?
No, he's working with our building inspector
Okay.
to see if these qualify as actual.
Okay,
Yeah.
so not yet. And we're also the other reason would be because we're still codifying.
Yeah, what we think is, and so the idea and the intent is that after we have our full-time city attorney on March 6th, that's when that will really pick up, because we have an interim, but he's gonna, you know what I mean? We don't know who our attorney is gonna be on.
Right. And our
March
code
6th.
enforcement officer is also interim because
Yes.
he's not going to.
Until we get our public safety board, until we get this right.
Okay.
Yep,
Right,
and
then-
he's agreed to
then-
fill in, but it
Okay.
doesn't want to do it full-time or long-term.
Okay. And then one other question, will you speak on the Public Works expansion?
Yeah, I forgot. I wrote that down. And so the Public Works expansion that he's speaking about, we purchased property next door to the city office. We purchased this driveway so that we won't be having our big trucks coming through this parking lot. This parking lot out here on the side, that's where our ADA parking is. And so we've been having, obviously the Public Works drives their dump truck through there and back and forth. So out here, the plan is to take down, so the plan is to still have the gate along this way, but then the plan is to, right out here outside of Town Hall, is to remove the fence that goes with this driveway to allow our Public Works. We purchased the property next door, this driveway, most of it, and then we purchased behind the Public Works shed so that we can pull our equipment up this road on and off Toker Boulevard, and they can go down the side of the current Public Works building and to the back of the Public Works shed. So they're going to be building out there, they're going to be building one of those, what do they call, they're the structures that have the steel roofs and that, so we can park our equipment there. We've got equipment up at the tank. We've got some equipment down at Center Street Park. We've had some up at the Westfield Park, but that's obviously being developed. So the idea is that we will be able to put all of our equipment either in the Public Works shed or behind it. That will be, so we are going to have to move those fences, and it's going to be an expense and quite a large expense. So we were kind of waiting to see what interest rates do as far as we have our funds invested at the state level, and we earn interest on it. So the idea is that as we're earning interest on our funds that's in there, we're watching that grow. And when we get enough that we can do that project, that's when we're going to take down the fences and move them. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're just trying to be super conservative with the budget. When we first started this project, the property purchase was there. The expansion was in the budget, but the money to actually move the fences or to fill this with dirt or anything like that, that part we want to pay for with interest rather than using our normal budget. So that's the intent. So as soon as we have that, then we'll do it. So probably by summer, we should be there by summer.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Did I hear you mention that we have hired a city prosecutor?
Well, he submitted an RFP, and Attorney Snow had gone through those and had given us the recommendation of who we would choose. So until we get our actual legal counsel, they would act in the interim if we have to take somebody to court, but we haven't had to do that yet. So we haven't engaged them until we need to. The idea is that we have them, they submitted their RFPs. We have them that they're willing to pick up whenever we have somebody we need to actually take to the court. But we don't want to engage them until we have our new attorney and hopefully a public safety board that they will sit on. So March 6th is when we're looking to fill those permanently, those permanent positions.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, now it's someone else's turn to talk.
I'm so sorry. Sorry.
No, that was good,
No.
Alvin. Yeah.
The public forum is up next. Oh, I'm sorry, we still have a presentation with Sunrise Engineering.
Right.
Council members, Vern Malloy with Sunrise Engineering. I was the project manager on this culinary water system water master plan. I have a few slides here. They're mostly a lot of numbers and things, and so I'll try and go through them rather quickly and hit my high points, but there's good information there if you have questions, and we can go back. We can go to the next one. So with the water master plan, this water master plan is an impact fee facilities plan and follows the Utah Impact Fees Act. And there's an impact fee analysis. So at the end of this, we have impact fee recommendations. Okay, so we can go to the next one. So here's really the gist of this. The growth projections, of course, are largely based on Firelight and the growth that is expected there. For the growth projections, we used Firelight's projected what they say they're going to grow by. So we've got Firelight built out by 2035. They said they were going to bring in 4,300, I think the number was, ERUs over that period of time. So as you can see, it's pretty flat until you get to this year, and then we start to grow pretty dramatically up to 2035. And then once we hit 2035, we go back to a 5% typical growth rate. So things slow down a little bit. By the time we get there, we'll be doing another master plan and we'll have a better idea of how that's going to look. So this is an interesting one to note. So here we're showing where your water rights are right now, how much water you have available, and what's going to be needed as Firelight grows. And you can see that you are within a couple of years of not being able to use the source that you have out of Ash Creek and Tocqueville Springs. And more source will be needed from somewhere. We do a 5-point analysis system. We look at water rights, water source, water storage, water treatment, and water distribution. You can see that water storage, water treatment, and for the most part, distribution look pretty good. There is a problem with the pipe size that we recommend increasing it because of velocities in the pipe, but that's just a smaller project. But water source and water rights, you can see that we're showing being pretty deficient at the end of 10 years. So what we did is evaluate what we need to do for source and for water rights, and we went two different directions. We typically say, all right, you need more source. Where are you going to get it? We'll go get some more water rights. We'll drill some more wells. So if you see the top table, that's the approach we took there. You can see that we need a lot more water. So the total project cost in today's dollars, we're estimating at $18 million. But recognizing that that's an expensive cost, water rights are hard to come by these days, and that we've got the Water Conservancy District out there. We recommend doing evaluating a split system where we would use those water rights. We'd also supplement with Water Conservancy District water, particularly to help the new growth from Firelight up on the hill. That requires it's going to require a lot less money. We don't quite know how much it is because we haven't started those conversations with the Conservancy District yet. So our recommendation is that we start those conversations with the Conservancy District sooner than later, so we can figure out what that looks like. We could bring it down from Anderson Junction, then putting that big pipeline up there. They have some rights here in the water in Ash Creek too that they might want to use. So we need to get with them and figure out what they want to do and how they're going to do that. So on the next one, so water rate analysis, we did a water rate analysis. The water rates didn't change much. This is kind of the existing structure. And the next slide, I think, shows our analysis, different structures. Really, the water rate is to cover your current operating costs and maintenance costs. All new growth should be covered by impact fees. So this is really just to help you guys continue your current operation and maintenance. And you can see it doesn't change much. We're showing an increase of $3. But again, this would change if we decide to use Water Conservancy District water. They have their own rates. That would change how the whole thing works. So again, our recommendation is to engage them and start that process real soon. So impact fee analysis, when we do the impact fee analysis, like we showed on the previous slide, there were two different options. One was to go out and get more water source and rights. The other is to engage the district. If we go out and get more water source and rights, we're looking at increasing the impact fee. The maximum allowable would be $3,829 per ERU. That's an increase of just over $2,000. If we go with the Water Conservancy District, we show it dropping over $1,000 to $668. Part of the reason that's so much lower is we don't know what those projects would look like with the Conservancy District, since we don't know what they're going to require. If it's a pipe coming down from Anderson Junction, that's going to be one thing. If it's a pipe from the creek up to Westfield Tank and up to the new big tank, that's a different cost. We don't know what those projects are going to look like. Again, we're recommending that we start those conversations with the Conservancy District as soon as possible, so we can kind of work that out, and then we can we can update the impact fee analysis, impact fee facilities plan and the analysis to reflect those different projects and their costs. So the way impact fees are determined is we take the total cost of those projects that are due to new growth. We divide them by the number of ERUs, and that's how we come up with the impact fee per ERU. It's just simple math. Okay, next slide, I think. Okay, so this is just kind of showing you the breakdown of the two different options. You can see the one on the left has those source and rights projects, and so that's where the bulk of that cost, those disappear on the one on the right, so the price is a lot smaller. Again, there are some costs that will be there, we just don't know what those are yet. Is that my last one, or I have another one? Okay, so that is the last slide. Are there any questions on the master plan?
So in addition to that, we've got a 20-page slide presentation that was sent out to us.
About 90, yeah, the entire plan is about 97 pages, I think.
Yeah, a lot of that is
Oh, really?
just
Yeah.
data,
Right.
but
And just how they got it. But so we uploaded that yesterday to your SharePoint package with the intention, we'll get to this item on the agenda,
Okay.
but with the intention that we just wanted you to have it so you could scroll through it. And while he was giving his, we're going to be asking for that to be tabled tonight. We just wanted you to be able to have it, discuss it with him if you have any questions even on his presentation. And then you would have it, so you can go home and read it. They're,
How does the $2 million water tank affect this analysis?
Gallon.
yeah, the 2 million gallon water tank isn't considered in this analysis because it is being paid for by the state or by the developer directly. So new development doesn't need to pay for that. It is getting paid for separately by the state. It's covered.
Well, I'm talking about with respect to the shortfall that we have with the water needs. That 2 million gallon tank, how does that affect the supply of water?
So that affects storage, and so
Right.
as you saw in their storage, we took that into account with the storage. Storage isn't going to be a problem. It's source. So that tank doesn't create water; it just stores water from where you get it from. So right now they're pulling water from Ash Creek through the
Right.
Westfield tank to fill that.
So during the
and-
winter time, there's a lot of water going down Ash Creek. Do you know what that volume is to where it will increase the storage capacity for that tank, or?
No, so yeah, so what we looked at is the total water you have available with your water rights.
Oh, okay.
And so you come into a shortfall with that. It's that the water above and beyond that goes down the creek isn't available to you. So you will need to find water from elsewhere. But it will be a big help in providing a lot of storage and can potentially provide better pressures and flows throughout the system. There are some modifications that we need to make
Well-
to do that.
Will some of that potentially be, will that somewhat change as they're building the Confluence Park recycling, which will take the amount of water off of the TSWS, right? And that'll give us more water rights for culinary? No, it's not going to do that?
Give us more water rights.
Okay.
The water rights are not ours.
Okay, so all that's going to do is just help.
Right, the water rights are the water districts,
Right.
irrigation system.
Okay,
That's part of their 20-year plan that they've currently implemented. So that, like Vern is saying here, those discussions need to begin sooner than later.
yeah, okay.
The
So that's not going to help us get more,
coronary
culinary
water,
input.
correct. You're correct, yes.
okay.
So you're basing at a steady 11.75% a year growth for 10 years. That's amazing. You can get that same percentage. But what's bothering me about this is Tocqueville is not going to serve the Firelight, but you're including that population into your analysis that we need to raise our water rate by $3 because that's Water Conservancy District. They're going to pay them for that water, not Tocqueville. But you're adding the citizens that gaining out there into your impact fee for Tocqueville. So you're really, to me, it seems like you're off base there a little bit because you're wanting to raise our rates here, but we're not supplying them water over there, but you're using net population into your calculation.
Right now, you're supplying water to them. That's where the water's coming
We're
from.
not supplying water to them. They're paid a water. That's Water Conservancy District is supplied water to Firelight, isn't it?
It's, no.
Are you guys buying water so you could do that yourself?
No, we haven't. That's the point of this one is that when they analyzed our water rates that we have, what he's saying is when they analyzed the water rights that Tocqueville has, we have enough to supply Tocqueville as it is right now. And we have enough for a little bit of their growth, but they are going to hit a point where we don't have enough to service Firelight or any other major developer that comes in. And so what he's suggesting is that we start conversations with the water district right now to say, hey, Tocqueville is not going to be able to supply all of this development on the west side. We need to have a split system where we service what we have water rights for, and everybody else needs to do what you're saying too, and purchase from the water district.
Yeah, right.
Currently, we
But
don't
the
have that
totals-
agreement in place.
Totals of population is figuring the people you can't serve.
Well, what he's figuring is
The way
maintenance.
I'm reading this, it's not, you can't justify that to me because if we're not sending everyone out there a bill, then this is off.
We are going to be sending them a bill.
If you
For
get
right-
the water, you
for-
don't have the water right now to do that. So we're projecting something that's not really,
Well,
it's an assumption.
we're buying it from a wholesaler, which is the water district. And
Do we
then
want to buy
and
that?
then we're
from them?
billing,
Do we want to inherit that problem out there?
and then we're billing
That's the question,
residents.
too.
Supply water to them.
Because you're going to inherit that problem and it's going to exacerbate this whole thing. And then you're all going to pay more to inherit the problem out there when they can self-serve themselves.
So
They can stay on Worthington County. So who's deciding to make the decision?
water,
That we're gonna
so
supply
water
the water.
rates, the water rates are operations and maintenance costs. They're not growth driven. And as that growth comes in, you'll have more rate users that will spread those costs out. So Firelight's number of users will just from an without factoring in different sources of water and stuff like that, more rate users tend to help rates come down a little bit because you're spreading those maintenance costs over more users.
That's not in fact
the
true.
impact fees are what will need to be.
You spread it out, but
covered.
you've also inherited the system, guys. You've inherited all that infrastructure. So that tips your cost back the other way. It's not the rosy picture. I'm not capping on your project here, but I can see the flaw in it. I think it's a flaw because we're going to pay for it. The existing citizens are going to pay more for that development if we inherit that development. If you stay away from it, that population is driving your number to drive that rate increase up. That's what's killing it. So our rate increase is going to go up.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is the rate increase is based on what we're seeing right now.
But you're not going to grow 11.5% what you're seeing right now in the current infrastructure.
But the user rates aren't based on the growth, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The user rate calculation, can we slide back to that slide?
So Wayne,
I fought this.
I'm debating whether
We
this
bring
is
water
a-
rates up, then it gets testy.
This
So-
is a business discussion item. I'm wondering if we want to continue that discussion under that category or leave it.
Well, we
at the-
can.
'cause
but
he's
maybe we
making
need to
a
change
present-
this a
yeah.
little bit
Yeah,
and make it realistic to what Tocqueville's goals are.
yeah.
Yeah,
So let's,
what we should do is,
yeah, this is a presentation. And so
know.
then we'll get
From the
on to it when we
presentation to the
hit the
discussion.
business item here. It's on the business item for us to discuss.
Yeah.
So
But
we'll
we
do
got
that.
him here. He can explain it all.
Well, are you going to stick around for the business?
Yeah,
part?
I was planning on sticking
Yeah,
around for the
okay.
business section.
That's
yeah.
fine. All right, very good. then.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'd like to open it up now for a public forum, 3 minutes per person. I think everyone that's here already knows the rules. So,
I wasn't going to speak because I always not to.
Well, we at least got to have one.
yeah,
I'm Dave Haymore, it's 2180 South Sunshine Lane. I guess just some clarification and everything, as Wayne brought up, and I don't understand the system, but any new developer always has to purchase the water rights and everything and bring them to the board. If the city wants to manage those and provide them, that's typical, and then they have the water rights and stuff. But all the impacts from any new development should be the cost bearing on that developer in that point. And then at that point, you look at it, not only the water rates that he's did the presentation is you're probably going to have to triple your staff for public works just to be able to handle that many houses and things like that. So there's many things that have to be brought up, and I'm surprised that haven't had those discussions with Water Conservancy. When I came in and hooked my line up, a little 2-inch line with a 3/4 inch, it cost me $15,000 at the Conservancy just to get the right to hook up to the water and then pay for a hookup fee. And so all developers, and I'm not saying again, coming from Nevada, and I hate saying Nevada, but at the point of the biggest growth out there, the developers in Reno Sparks were buying all the water rights in our county. It completely destroyed our agricultural zone because they bought all the water rights. And at the point, their water rights hookup fee was costing over $75,000 per house just to have one water right hooked up to their house. That's how expensive water is. I bought water rights as soon as I got here. I only got 3 acre feet. I was looking for mini acre feet. And at that time, it was $8,500 a water right. Now it's already tripled and quadrupled for a water right and things in this area. So you're correct. Start asking the right questions. Start looking at the things that you need to do and start negotiating with your developers and your partners. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, we'll close the public forum if no one else has anything else to add. We'll go on to our business items. Business item number 1, discussion and ratification on approving a change order to the Tocqueville Parkway project in the amount of $147,856.50 to raise the road grade near the south end of Tocqueville Parkway project. Now, this is the ratification vote that was made by phone, and we just need to ratify it here this evening. So do I have a motion?
So move that we ratify the phone vote for business item 1.
Okay, I would second that. All in favor?
You seconded?
I did.
Yeah.
I still had a discussion on that.
Yep. Any discussion?
How come I was not privy to the vote?
Was there,
So, yeah, so I did try to reach out to you multiple times throughout the day and the next day as well to get your vote. I talked to Councilman Campbell the next day as well. I told both of you at the same time.
So you're saying I was unavailable?
Yeah, but
You're saying you called me?
was-
Well, I'm not going to get into it, but
okay, what did the votes come out?
4-0,
4-0?
4-0, yeah.
Harry, Chuck, Todd, and Joey, all the way aye. This is
Okay.
in your packet as well.
And let me see where Wayne is. Wayne is just not listed there.
Correct, yep, he's just absent from this vote.
I'm good with it. I'm good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We need an individual vote on this. Wayne, it's a money.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, individual vote also on item number 2, business item number 2, discussion and ratification on approving a change order to the Tocqueville Parkway project in the amount of $180,000 to engage Applied Geotechnical Engineering Consultants Incorporated, AGEC, to address the geotechnical concerns on the Tocqueville Parkway cut slopes. I'm looking for a motion for that.
So I move that we approve the phone vote for business item number 2.
Okay, any second? I would second that. Open for discussion?
I don't see me on there. I tried.
The only,
I think we had a miscommunication between me and Daisy on, I was
Okay,
gonna call her back or she was calling me back. But she did call me and I wouldn't vote until I got the information, landmarks proposal to read it first. But the vote went on, so looks like it already passed, but my vote would have been nay.
okay. And what were the other votes?
Chuck, I, Gary, I, Todd Sands, I, Joey Campbell, nay.
Okay, so it's 3-2,
yeah.
Yep.
So,
3-1, based upon what you collected.
and my,
Okay.
my only
I
comment,
did a phone vote.
my only comment, Gary, is that I appreciated the packet that we got and especially our interim attorney's letter.
So
So I appreciate that. I didn't get a chance to tell him, but I did appreciate his insight into the letter.
Yeah.
So if you can pass that along.
Okay.
So I guess I saw the packet and it was comprehensive, but I didn't see it before I had an opportunity to vote. And was that entire packet in there when you called for a phone vote?
Yep.
It was available through the,
Yes, I gathered all the supporting documents before making the phone call.
okay,
And I
Then-
waited some time for you guys to review and all that.
okay. Because, yeah, I didn't have an opportunity I must have just overlooked the fact that it was there. So you had an opportunity to see it?
Yes,
I
that's
only
right.
had privy to part of it.
Yeah.
I got the attorney's evaluation, but I never
Evaluation.
to get landmarks until it was too late.
Yeah.
Okay,
That proposal, but she did get it to me.
Yeah, I saw it, and if you want to bring that up, Gary, I saw it, I went through it all. It was expressed, I think, that we were supposed to get that information on Friday so that we had the weekend to look at it, and that did not happen. So it didn't come till Sunday or Monday, if I remember correctly. I know the mayor had expressed that we would get it ahead of time, but it didn't come.
She can check the date that she uploaded it. I think it was
Yeah, I
Friday.
okay,
Yeah, I can look too, but I believe it came on Monday.
okay. All right, are we ready we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion passes. Next item, discussion possible action on Tocqueville City Culinary Water Master Plan update. Now's our opportunity to have some discussion and take a motion on this. Personally, the number of slides that we saw tonight were not adequate, in my opinion, for us to even make any kind of a decision on this today. And
Yeah, I agree. It was too fast. I couldn't follow it, but I was doing some pretty good research in it prior to that.
And I think that was also Afton's recommendation
Daisy
that
can
we
upload the
table it.
presentation to their SharePoint.
So,
Daisy can upload this presentation too to the SharePoint so that as you
Okay.
go through the actual 97-page document, you'll also have this presentation. So if you have questions on either. Yeah, staff's asking for it to be tabled. Like we said, this is just a presentation and a draft for you to review. You'll have through, you know what I mean, weeks and then more discussion on it at the next one if you choose to table it. So,
I understand that, but I think you're totally premature on this impact facility plan unless you don't, because we don't know the avenue you're going to go. If you're going to adopt all that out there and
Yeah,
service it
this is
all, it
just to
makes-
start the conversation and get direction and work with the
This is
engineers.
not the impact fee study either.
Right.
This is the water, this
This is our
just-
culinary water master
This is just
plan.
a start. So we
This
can
is a
go-
start, but
Yeah. So yeah, this is,
you know,
it's going to change.
it's a change, but it's
Wait,
going in
Wayne,
the
I
wrong
agree
direction
with-
until we give him, he's got to know where we're going. He can't come up with this if he doesn't know where the city is going to go. And I
Right.
think he was asking for that, to have conversations.
right, to decide which option that we wanted to pursue.
So,
And they
'cause this-
need
this-
to know that, but,
This scares me to death because
well,
I can see where it's going. I did the math here the last little bit and I don't agree with it. So
Well, and
It's just a discussion.
yeah, it's just a discussion and part of that discussion, and we've been working on this now for how long? A year and a half, 2 years? Almost, yeah.
Wow.
And so we've been working on it for quite a while. We've met with Firelight to get their actual projections of things that they are doing. We've gone down there, we've discussed all of our tanks, all of our storage capacity. And so now it's to the point where we're bringing it to the council to get feedback, to get information, to get anything that you see that might be different than what we see or what we know, and just to get your input and your feedback. So that's the discussion, is just to get this in front of the council and present it and just start having these discussions. One of the main questions that we've had as we've gone through this is exactly what Vern is saying. We've come to the point where we have to address this with the district, of how Firelight is going to be serviced. We know that they're part of our city, right? I mean, Firelight is part of our city. This was a development agreement that started in 2008 and has progressed, and we are where we are. So now it definitely is time to have those conversations of where the water for Firelight will come from. We've addressed our water rights. We know how many residents we could serve, how many ERUs, how many NERCs we could have. But now, and that's kind of what they're saying, is we've kind of taken this as far as we can go without having some of these conversations with the district to say, we need to look at a split system where we service, where Tokerville will obviously do the servicing, but where this much water can come from our water rights and this much water needs to be supplied by the district. And that's a split system. To say, are people who come online after that going to have a higher rate? What are we going to do? And so that's why we're bringing you this. So it's a large document. It's 97 pages. Like I said, this has been in the works for well over a year. I think the first time this came when we suggested this was almost 2 years. It was almost 2 years ago when we first started down this road. So
If we change dramatically from it, how much is it going to cost to redo this thing?
well, it's still in there. We're under contract with them to do this. So this is, I mean, yeah, it's engineering, so it just depends. I mean, we have a budget for this, and it's $60,000 to update. We don't have an option of if we want to do our culinary water master plan. The state says, hey, if you're going to be a city, there's a few plans you're going to need, right? We need a general plan. We need to generally know how you plan to run the city. We need to know what you plan to do for capital facilities. You need to address your culinary water system. And so that's what this is. This is a plan that we have to have a way to say, this is the system we've got. This is the value of the system. And this is what it's going to cost to maintain it. And this is new growth that is going to come into this system. So we have to do this. This isn't one of those things. To answer your question, what's it going to cost? A lot.
Afton, what does it mean, or Darren maybe, what does it mean? Because I was under the impression that a developer has to get water rights in order to develop in that area. So I was under the impression, doesn't Firelight have those water rights secured? So they don't?
No, they do not.
No, they do not.
They don't have to do that. But we here in Washington County, it seems like that in order for them to develop it, a developer has to get those water rights. They have to do that ahead of.
That's
not true?
negotiated. That was not negotiated with Tokerville.
And it's part of why we were part of the regional water supply agreement.
Okay,
That's one of the elements of that document is to supply water to all of the cities within inside that are part of that agreement. So they'll continue, under that type of thing. And it's like Wayne is saying, is he realizes that we'll run out of our water right.
right.
But where is the water right going to come from that will continue to serve
So,
the new development?
So future-
Right, it's all new development.
okay, so future developments coming into Tokerville are not required
Right.
to have water for that planned development.
Yeah, so right now,
Okay,
up on
Yes.
Anderson Junction, all of that water right now that goes and feeds that tank up there and those homes and those, the new RV park, that is all water that is supplied by the water district from the Cottom Well.
right, because that was an exchange.
yeah.
That was an exchange for the well, right?
There's no exchange. There's no anything. They pump water and they supply it to us at so many dollars a 1,000 gallons. Then we pass that cost on to the end user. We add our administrative fee plus their fee, and we have to every so often do a study to justify, and so it says we're not charging them more than a fair share, that we're in line. And so that's basically how most of the water in Washington County, Ivans, they don't own hardly any water. They buy almost every bit of their water from the district at their rate. And then they do their administrative charges and sell it to the end user. And that's what we're going to have to do out here at Firelight. That's really where it's at. It's just because, and the water district, they're doing all kinds of things to supply more and more water. They've got their 20-year plan. Part of that is that you kind of mentioned the ag conversion plus the reuse line. There's a lot of different elements to that supplying of water to Tokerville and to all of the county, not just
So
Tokerville.
does the water district own the pipes they put in? And do they maintain them?
Yes, yeah.
So-
So if they bring water pipe,
In
go ahead.
the greater scheme of it, out there in Firelight, we will assume a lot of those water lines,
Correct.
but there's a lot of them that are on private streets that you don't get.
And those will be,
A lot of it,
those will be
so-
those developers' private lines,
lines.
yes. So the
Private
ones,
lines will be
yeah, the ones
charging
that
for
are
the
in public,
water.
and public streets will become ours as they, just like any other development. Once that final plat records, we assume all of the infrastructure in that new development. But the
assume stuff
developer
private.
puts all of that in, not Tokerville City.
But you can't assume the water system in a private street, and they have numerous private streets. You cannot assume, that's not your water pipe. We don't own that.
We're gonna
maintain it.
feed water to those meters though, in that private street.
You were a water conservancy district. If you buy the water from the water conservancy, then you
Yes.
secondhand it.
Correct.
And you can, but you don't know the pipe. So when you're trying to create what your infrastructure cost is, you don't really have, at this point, we don't know how many miles of pipe you can have in the ground.
Not yet, and that's still as development.
It's a hard
proceeds.
projection to hit without
Well, and
prior data to put this.
I don't know
together.
how Vern, he just took the number of units, the ERUs, equivalent residential units.
You took what the
So-
existing is for our existing ERUs and just expanded it out based upon the projection of expansion with
But you can't do
ERUs.
that because you don't know what's private and what's not private. You don't
So there,
know.
we
what
have
your-
to make some assumptions when we.
You have some
do this.
information on what we'll assume and what they'll keep as far
So,
as water lines in the ground.
Well,
well, we do it based on number of ERUs and what those average out to be for all those different things.
But your infrastructure's changed. You don't have an idea what your infrastructure is except what we own.
The infrastructure will be installed by the developer, it'll be operated and maintained eventually by the city, but
I'm just saying
the
some of it
installation will.
will.
The private.
Most of it will, but there'll be a lot of private that they maintain it. If it breaks, it's their problem.
Right, and I think what he's saying is what we're doing is we understand that if it's a private street and something breaks, we would rather go the opposite and assume that, making assumptions that all of it is going to become ours. So we know the worst case scenario of what we would inherit, right? And then if one becomes a private street, fine, we can redo the projections. But just going for a starting point, we have to assume that that the infrastructure for 4,500 units would become city.
So it could have been.
Start with
an
that.
overestimate
So,
based
and
upon.
It could be an overestimation, exactly what he's saying. You won't know exactly how much is going to be there, and some of it will be taken out.
Overestimation ends up a higher monthly bill for you and I.
well, the water rate,
I
Councilman
looked through
Olson,
that water rate. I understand that water rate.
it's based on 2021, it's not based on growth. So that water rate does not have any growth projections in the water rate. It's looking at what your historical costs are based on your audits.
It has to be
And-
profitable.
Yeah, and then what your expenses have been. And right now, we're showing that it's pretty close. And based on the information we have, that we think it's $3 short. Now, there'll be some things that affect that as we go forward, like adopting the new outdoor policy from the district and adopting that 0.59 acre feet per year standard. Conservation efforts and some of those other things will help a little bit with that.
My metering is.
If we go to looking at what the district can provide and what they will do, this will necessarily have to change, because especially if we can do a split system, your user rates here will remain the same because you have the same infrastructure, the same source, the same everything else. but the rates up at Firelight and the new development up on the hill that get their water from the district will have an entirely different user rate based on what those costs are. And those user rates will have to be analyzed to determine what the city part of that is to make sure they can maintain all of that.
Okay. Do I have a motion to table this item?
Yes, you do. So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Come on, get away from it.
Yeah,
Thank
read
you.
it, highlight it, burn it, bring it back.
Thank you, Vern. We appreciate the time and effort that you and your organization have put into this.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Business item number 4, discussion possible action on waiving the town hall reservation fee for Leif Bjornson readiness meetings.
So this one is before you because we had a discussion. They submitted their schedule. That schedule has expired. They've used those. And so they're back with their new schedule and just asking for the same thing. When this came before the council, they still have their $75 deposit on file with the city and all of that, but we've been waiving the town hall fee. It was a half-day rental at $50. And so they've got 8 dates coming up in 2024 that they would like to do the same thing and expand that readiness program, just continue it on. And so it's obviously that's an expenditure that you would be waiving, so it would be a roll call vote, but this is their schedule. And we haven't had any problems with them or complaints. We did have one where Ray Bentz called the city and just let us know that they did have some people actively speaking out against government and some things, and they shut it down real quick of that that's not the time or the place or what they're doing there or the purpose of these meetings, that these meetings are only to address emergency preparedness and readiness. And so residents have said that they've attended it. They've enjoyed what they've learned. So at $50 a time, that's the equivalent of $400. So what they're really asking is for 2 things. 1 is approval of the schedule, and 2 is the waiving of the fees.
Do you have any scheduling issues there that interfere
We
with
don't, we
city?
have Christmas, that's planning commission. This one, no, we have no scheduling issues with this one.
Okay.
That's on the planning commission one, sorry.
I would move that we go ahead and approve waiving the town hall reservation fee for Leif Bjornson's readiness meetings
I would second that.
And approving their schedule.
and approving their posted schedule as well.
It would be the both of them.
Schedule subject to change for any reason,
Not that they've submitted and they've held their dates on all the last.
as long as you guys doesn't interfere with our stuff, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't
It's the thing to do.
it doesn't interfere with ours, and we have told them if something pops up that is city, obviously they understand that the city's takes precedence, but we've worked with them and it's been great. They've used the restrooms and things like that. So,
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 I like it.
Motion passes. Business item number 5, discussion of possible action on ordinance 2024.XX, grading ordinance amending and restating this Tocqueville City Code 10-18B to modify the grading process.
so this ordinance is before you. It has gone before Planning Commission and it is now before you. This is one that will have long-term effects on Tocqueville. It's a big ordinance. It has lots of updates and changes. Some of those changes have come from legal. Some of those changes have come from an engineering firm. Some have been staff recommended. We've had council members that have sent emails about this. It is the request of staff that we would table this until we have a full council, we have our mayor, a full council, legal counsel, and the engineers present for the discussion. So that would give even mayor and council longer to go through this, see if you have questions, but that would be the discussion. That would be what the request of staff, that we table this until we have full council, legal counsel, and the engineer that helped draft it.
Okay, Planning Commission, do you have any comments related to this?
Well, I highly recommend either tabling it or kick it back to the planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Make that motion.
I have a motion to table this
Recommend, or
item.
I have, yeah,
Motion to table.
motion to
business item.
table business item G5, grading ordinance.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. It's tabled. Item number 6, discussion of possible action on conditional use applications submitted by the Sapp Brothers for a travel center building and diesel shop located on 600 West 1700 North, tax ID number T-3-0-27-3410 and T-3-0-27-315. Current zoning is highway commercial.
So
Yeah, this,
Mayor Pro Tem, basically, this is for the Sapp Brothers. Essentially, in our conditional, or in one of the conditional use that are needed in this zone, is that and if you look into your packets that you have in your, you can look at that and see those comments, but basically, anything over 5,000 square feet in this zone requires a conditional use permit. Thus, the travel center and the diesel shop are over 5,000 square feet. We're not exactly sure why that's in there in a commercial zone, because if you came in with a hotel or different things such as that, all little things such as that would be in a commercial zone. So that is possibly something we've been trying to figure out why that's there.
Okay, were there any other staff comments that,
If you, do you want me to read the comments? So,
okay, so this is, if we motion to approve this, then we would include these staff comments.
yes,
Part of it.
yes. So, as per the 1012B3 in the highway commercial zone, all permitted uses in buildings over 5,000 square feet are listed as conditional uses. This conditional use permit application has been reviewed by staff and has been deemed complete as per Title 10, Chapter 20, and Title 10 of Chapter 6 of the Tocqueville City Code. This application was deemed complete on January 22nd, 2024. As per the 10-20-3A, the applicant for the proposed conditional use has been submitted an application for the conditional use permit application. As required in 10-6-1, the applicant has submitted the following: a noticed mailing list for this, for the public hearing that was required at Planning Commission, and application fee, the map of the existing conditions, a development report, a detailed site plan, preliminary construction plans. They've actually submitted almost final construction plans. And please note that the development agreement is not applicable to this conditional use permit for this application. And that's part of our requirements. That's basically just goes through those requirements.
I missed this one. I didn't have time. Is this a land use item?
Yes, this is the conditional use of the zone.
So how does it fit? If it's a land use, how does it fit the general plan, the general plan applicability?
oh, yeah, it's not because it's not a zone change. Well, go ahead, Raker.
So the uses that they're proposing here are permitted uses. What makes this a conditional use is solely that these uses are going to be in structures over 5,000 square feet. But if they were under 5,000 square feet, they would just be a permitted use. They wouldn't be before you for the conditional use permit application.
So we're good.
Yeah, so it's uses that are identified in this zone.
I didn't have a chance to go through the.
Okay, Planning
On this
Commission,
one?
any comments?
No, this meets all of the criteria that it needed. We certainly recommend approval of it.
I would go ahead and move that we go ahead and approve a conditional use application that was submitted by Sapp Brothers for the travel center building and the diesel shop located on 600 West 1700 North, along with the staff recommendations. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Is staff is looking at the 5,000 as a possible change for that
Yes.
conditional use or planning commission? Okay.
Yeah, Planning Commission plans on bringing that,
Okay.
updating that ordinance. We'll have to have a discussion on what that number would be, but
Okay.
yeah, we need to amend that
Okay.
ordinance.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Business item number 7, discussion possible action on resolution 2024.XX uniform fee schedule creating commercial utility rates, a commercial business license rate, and updating the returned payment fee. And I believe there's a slide for that
Yeah, so Daisy.
highlighting the changes that are proposed.
Yeah, Daisy, if you can zoom on this. So there are a couple of things on this fee schedule. One, our current fee schedule says a return check payment, but not everything that's coming back is a return check. Sometimes it's a credit card payment that doesn't clear things. We just need it to say returned payment fee. So that's a pretty simple one. The next one is one of these things that on here, as we move into having commercial, we have that a regular business license is $50 for a calendar year. We need to establish a commercial business license. This mirrors the city of St. George's, identical. And what it does is it says that if you want to have a commercial business license, that it's still $50 per year, but then you're charged per employees. So if you have one full-time employee, it's $10. $10, so it's per employee. So then if you have a part-time employee, it's $5. No matter what, your commercial business license maxes out at $350. So a good example of this would be back when I worked at Rosenberg, we're an engineering firm. We had employees, we had 30 employees. And so ours was with the city of St. George, ours was $50 for a commercial business license. And then we had to calculate how many full-time employees we had and how many part-time employees we had. And so we actually maxed out at we maxed out at $350. That's the most that we would be charging. But what this does is it allows somebody that has a commercial business, but maybe they have 5 employees. They don't just automatically pay $350, but somebody comes in that's a bigger retailer or a bigger commercial, they need to pay based on, the number of employees that they have. So this is literally an exact copy of how City of St. George has done theirs. That's what we've used. We're open to feedback if you have, more than that. I think, is there this supporting on this one? So we can just go ahead and just see. But if you want to go ahead and just turn this one, just rotate it. Yeah. And so if you look at this, you'll see when we looked at Laverkin's charging a business license fee, a base one that is higher than ours. Ours is 50. And then their commercial business license fee is 100. So ours on here, if you look at Hurricanes, they have $75 and then an application fee, the same as above. Then we had Enoch, they just have nothing for a home base. Then they have a commercial 75. And so what we realized is that everybody is pretty varied on theirs. And City of St. George is one that has worked really well for a long time. I mean, I've filled these out for years and years and years, and it seems to be fair. It seems to be equitable. It doesn't place too much of a hardship on people that have 1 or 2 employees, but at the same time, it's appropriate for people who have big. So our suggestion is that we go with the same as City of St. George.
Why is there a fee per employee?
So that we don't say, so that somebody like for Sapp Brothers, right? Like, or these bigger, or, big commercial that's going to come in, that's going to have lots and lots of employees, that we don't have somebody who is just the same. It takes longer to go through their requirements for a business license, depending on if they're bigger than it does just somebody who has, one small business going on. And so this has been the most equitable way to do it.
So it matters for a business if this business comes in with 2 employees versus this business that comes in with 100.
Right.
Because it takes more staff time to.
Yeah, we got to review. I mean, it takes longer to staff review these. It takes longer for them to go through and make sure they met all the requirements. So yeah, this is the best way to cover our time and expense.
Okay, I'm just trying to, in my brain, comprehend
Yeah.
what the number of employees has to do with what you guys are doing as far as the commercial business license. How does the employees affect the business license?
what Emily does for going back through and verifying all of their documents, it takes her a lot longer to do a commercial than just somebody who has a regular business. We can have her email you the list of requirements different and you'll be able to see those. So,
Essentially, a business person with over 30 people is going to have a flat rate of $350 if he has over 30 people. That rate would vary depending upon what we determine the size of that company being based upon the number of employees that they're using. The only downside I see is we're depending upon the honesty of the business person to reveal the number of employees that they have.
yeah, and they should be filing with the state of Utah, right? I mean, within 3 days, they should be filing their employees if they're giving them a paycheck. So we can pull that data from the state and say, hey, this business is telling us that they only have, and this speaks to what Todd's saying, right? That we can pull this report that says, hey, when you hire a new employee, you have to report that to the state. You're taking taxes out of their paychecks and things like that. So you have to report when you hire, within 3 days, you have to report that you have a new employee. So we'll be able to do that. But if we're going to pay Emily to do that, not on your honor system, if we're going to pay her to pull reports to say, this is what they reported on their business license, this is what they're representing to the state that they have, who they have working there, and adding those up and doing that, that's part of this business license fee.
Suspicion you have a double checker.
Yeah. But I mean, and that's just one of them, but she's got another checklist. She'll send it to you,
But
Todd.
nobody's really done a business license that is graded based upon revenue that the company generates.
Right. No, it's based on number of employees. That's the one to track. Yeah, because you could have somebody who only has 1 or 2 employees who's doing, $1 million and somebody who has 30 or 40 who's going under. So yeah, we'd see them. So what we've done to kind of get on the front end of it, but when we reached out to a lot of these cities, they are now going to go back and look through theirs because we said, well, we're looking at doing City of St. George's, which is considerably different than what you're doing. So a lot of these are doing, so we try to do, before we bring it to you, we try to do quite a bit of research,
Sure.
but
No, I appreciate that, the research and everything. I still am trying to comprehend. So if I have an In-N-Out and if I have a Burger King in Tokerville and one has 50 employees and one has 75 employees, what's the difference in the business license?
Nothing.
nothing.
So why is there a difference? So in the
It'll max
employees?
out. Well, you would
Okay,
max
well then
out.
let me change that. Let's say I have a In-N-Out with 10 employees and I got a Burger King with whatever maxes out, 75. Yeah, 70. What's the difference in the business license aspect of it?
Well, there's lots of things that can go into a business license. It depends on if we have to send out, we could send out John Poster to
Well, no,
inspect
but
and
you're
do
doing that
this.
for the both businesses,
and
for
that-
their identical fast foods. The only thing that's different is the number of employees. So I'm having trouble comprehending.
How do you want to do it?
I don't know. I'm trying just to
Well-
understand the concept. And maybe
there
it's
is-
just me.
There is a traffic, the number of employees could relate to the additional traffic that could be coming
Okay.
into this town.
Okay, and then,
And
And you'll notice,
police that are needed if
Okay.
there's an incident.
Walmart against your,
yeah.
like a
Okay.
hairdresser in town.
Well, and if you'll notice on City of St. George's, theirs is the same regardless of if you're a regular business or a commercial business, bigger commercial. We're actually splitting those to say, right, like, so for ours, it says you have a business license. Then if you get, Days, if you'll go back to the fee schedule, right here. So what we're saying on here is currently ours just says all business licenses are $50. Doesn't matter if you're a one person or if you're a great big enterprise, your business license is $50. And so what this allows is that if you're going to do it, they'll be, if you go back to the City of St. George one, what we're asking is, see, now you'll have for your business license, they'll all be commercial business licenses. But if you are a person and you're just a one-man shop, you're going to be just charged the 50 plus, and then if you're a full-time or part-time employee. So you could be paying 55. So it's in essence, if you go back to our fee schedule, this is what we're asking. So it's not going to say that this business license part is going to go away and it would just be a commercial business license.
okay. So you asked me for an alternative.
Yeah, if you can think of anything.
Well,
we're
so an
open to.
alternative might be a $50 business license up to whatever, 30 people. Anything above 30 is the max, 350.
And that's the way that reads right now.
Well, no, it doesn't because it's $5 per employee.
Well, it's actually $10 for full-time and
Or
$5.
10, yeah, 10 and 5. So if you just did a blank,
That's enough to do that if you times out what our employee rate is, even.
okay, that was
$50
gonna
isn't
be my, that was gonna be
the
my next
staff, yeah.
question. That was my next question is how is our employee rate working to these fees? And that's the proper
That's
way to
how
do it.
it's, yeah, if we're going to recoup those fees.
That was my next.
Yeah.
question then. Okay.
And this will, lead into the next one. But yeah, so so that's it. That's
Okay.
kind of where we are with that, is that 50 won't cover
Okay.
employee fees for that, for review.
I'm open for comment.
Captain,
Yeah.
this doesn't cover the inspection fees for the building department and the fire department?
Right, they'll be charged for those separately. They'll pay, like the fire department, they have to pay an inspection. Yeah, those will be separate fees.
Annual fees, they get very pricey.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to focus on the next one, the storm drain.
Yeah, so on here, we have a storm water ordinance. And in there, this is just updating the fee schedule to match that ordinance. Our fee schedule calls it a residence. The ordinance is calling it an ERU. So we need to add that ERU. The other thing is over here where you can see where it says it. We wanted to actually call out what the code says. The code says an ERU is equal to 5,000 square feet. That kind of helps people as that's just to help the public. Because if you see on the fee schedule and it says per residence, and they're like, okay, well, is it a big residence, a little residence? So we're like, it's actually not a residence. In the code, it says it's an ERU, which is the equivalent residential unit. And so then if people are going to say, well, what's an equivalent residential unit? It's 5,000 square feet. So that helps you know. So it's just for clarification and to match the ordinance. So, and then on that, we have the commercial stormwater drain fee. And this has come about from, up on Settlers Junction, when we went to bill them for utilities, this is an actual example of what we're doing here. We went to bill them for utilities. It was coming out to this insane thousands and thousands of dollars per month. Anyway, and so then we actually went back to the stormwater ordinance and then ran it through legal. And this was legal's clarification of that, of updating the fee schedule, that the rates calculated, it says in our ordinance on the impervious square feet, you can see divided by 1 ERU equals our monthly charge. And so when we actually did this according to the ordinance, not our fee schedule, before that, honestly, it came out to, I can't even remember, it was like $1,100. We were in that discussion. It was about $1,100 when we did it according to how our ordinance was, dropped it down to like $36, which is what it should have been. But our fee schedule was misreading it. So this matches the ordinance.
Ordinance was correct.
Yeah. So that's that change.
Where does that money go to?
The our stormwater fee to maintain our stormwater system.
What if I don't create any stormwater?
Still pay the fee. You still pay the fee. Somebody around you might develop in the future and yours might run down onto it.
Everybody's downstream, man.
100%.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Future improvements, isn't it?
Maintenance of the current and future improvements, yes.
You have to maintain
Yep.
your existing, so.
That actually happened out there. They asked that question. They said, we do not drain into your stormwater. And they asked that question if they could not be charged that, but there's property down from that could potentially. So the answer was yes, you have to pay the fee. And they were okay with that. They just asked the question, like, hey, what if we're not? Right. Yeah, sure. Of course, people are going to ask, but yeah, exactly what you're saying. They asked that exact question. And so we ran that through legal and it came back. That's the way that it was supposed to be. So on here, we have a utility, our residentials. If you want to connect to the city to get a utility account, you currently pay a $300 deposit, refundable deposit when you move out. And our fee schedule said new residential utility, and it's not actually just only for new. It's if you go to a different address, if you roll it over. So we needed to strike the word new. It's just that if you have a residential utility account, you have a deposit. If you want to come in and connect, that's what it is. If you want to come in and connect, this is already in place. So we just want to strike the word new residential. It's just causing a lot of confusion. When you sign up for utilities, you have a deposit.
But it stays with you if you move within Tocqueville City.
Yeah, if you keep it under your name and you just change your address, yeah, because you'll get it refunded and then you'll get it back on for your new place. But yeah, so we just need to strike that word new. It's just creating a ton of confusion. The next thing also has to do with commercial. And we feel like we've really dialed in a lot of our normal fees. But as development is coming in to kind of do what we were talking about and staying ahead of things, one thing that we're talking about is our deposit on this residential utility. We went through, and that the way that the $300 came about was that's about 2 months worth of utilities for the average user. When we average out our utilities, about $150. So if somebody were to, quit, pass away, whatever, decide they're just not paying for this, we have a $300 deposit that usually covers, and that takes us to the shutoff. So that's how the $300 came about. When we look at commercial utility service applications, we've only had a couple, obviously, but when we have those bills can range up to, $2,500. They can range up to $2,000 easily. And so we need to have a commercial utility one. We have one for residential, but we were not charging a deposit for these new, and we're just starting to get them. And so this commercial utility service application, it obviously at $500, it doesn't cover, 2 months worth of a $2,000 commercial bill. But at least it does do that. And so we would have at least $500 toward that for the deposit. Well, it's like if we play that out and we say, oh, the average is going to be $2,000 or $2,500, that would require them to have like a $5,000 utility deposit. Most other cities are $300. They're the same on commercial as they are residential. And we did say that it would be reasonable to have at least $500 and, shut them off if they're not going to pay it, but. Well, that's the thing is we would shut them off.
Right, but if there's an outstanding bill.
Yeah.
We get stuck with the sewer, wouldn't we? And
We do.
Yeah, we do. And so that's why this is on there. So
we get stuck with the electrical then also, right?
No, not the electrical. Just the pass-through expenses that we have to the districts.
Okay, so Rocky Mountain Power would get stuck with that.
Their power bill is separate. We only bill for water and the pass-throughs like sewer. Blue can.
So this is then covering us for what?
Well, at least we have something on file. The chances of a commercial not paying their bill are way lower.
But from your example, so I can understand, your example was they have a $2,000 power bill and.
Well, not a power bill, but they have water, the pass-through, the sewers.
All the utilities.
Except for power. Yep.
All right, I got you.
Yep.
Okay, it's for the utilities.
Right.
Okay,
And so we're asking that we at least put in a $500 deposit, and then we can watch this over the next couple of months and see, is anybody not paying their bill? Are they paying their bill? The chances of the reason that it's not, so with the residential, in our experience, right, it's more likely that a resident would not be able to pay that utility bill rather than an actual commercial. The travel center paying their utility bill is probably going to happen.
on the residential, how long do you hold that refundable deposit?
Well, it's on their account the whole time. Yep,
20, 30
the whole
years?
time. Yep,
Property.
yep.
Some cities delete it after 12 months or so.
Sure, and Washington City does that of 12 months of having it on there with no late payments and no things like that. And we've talked about looking into that, but this residential is not even a year old on our fee schedule. So we want to kind of watch that for at least a year and have some data to see if it's okay to refund these after 12 months, if that's reasonable, or if they need to stay longer. Dixie Power, they do the same thing. They refund it if you have a deposit and you've paid your bill, so
Do they get
some of them
do they get
don't
interest on that
do it at
300?
all. They do.
They do?
Yes.
Wow. That's like a savings account. That's a good idea.
It's the same thing we do, and it offsets, it's what helps us keep other rates low. I mean, it offsets our shut off on there too. I mean, just to say, we've implemented, our shut off fees on here for that, for our utilities. And I mean, it was like $14,000 in revenue last year that we weren't collecting prior to that. So anyway, so this is just, that's the ask, is that we start charging a commercial utility deposit. And I think that's the last change on there.
So if I could ask, we have some residents here that are selling things out of their home. Maybe somebody's selling something out of eBay. Other people may have a housekeeping business out of their home. Are they defined as commercial businesses, even though they might?
That's a home occupation permit.
License?
They
Okay.
don't have to get, when they have a home occupation permit, and they have to actually register with the state, and so the state tracks that. So that we don't have to track that. When they, if they start to, if they're going to have traffic at their home, when they register with the state, it will say like, are you going to have traffic at your home? Are you going to have, you know, are you going to have people parking on your street? What are you going to be doing? And when they register whatever their use is, that's what determines if they're a home occupation or they need to come to the city to get a business license.
What would you classify nightly rental as?
That needs a license.
That's,
They've got traffic on the street, they're outside of their home footprint. We license those. We license nightly rentals. Right there, you can see the nightly rental license renewal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, but those fees would apply commercial rates, nightly rentals.
Well, they'll pay this fee right here, and then they'll have to get a business, they have to get a business license also.
Commercial, nightly rentals, unless it was a.
That's what I'm determining.
They'll go up to like, they'll go, yeah, if it's just them, that's all they have. But if they list on that application that there's two of them, right? If it's a husband and a wife, that's two, that's their $50 deposit plus their $10 full-time employee with them, or a $5 fee for a part-time.
I'm talking about the rates for the water and the sewer that we just looked at here.
They're more.
They would convert them over to.
It's going to be,
commercial?
yeah, if it's going to be, well, going forward, we're not going to go back and call it people with a nightly
But if
rental and say,
somebody-
we need another $200. No, but if it's, but that, you know, that'll be looked at their
It
renewal.
would be defined as a commercial.
And that'll be a staff, their renewals of their nightly rentals will be staff, and they'll look at it to say, have we had any problems with this nightly rental?
So I'm just looking at with Firelight. putting
Moving
in-
forward,
putting in
yes, a nightly
application.
rental would have to have that.
When Firelight puts in there that nightly rental resort, they would be defined as commercial business.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And
All right,
so that would apply then also to a nightly rental in town? It would be a
yeah,
commercial?
going forward.
Going
she
forward.
said, yeah.
It'd be a commercial, yep.
Okay, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that
I
we.
think there's, yeah, I think there's, if you scroll down, yeah, I think there's just a couple
I thought
more,
we had
sorry.
them Killed off.
Oh,
Oh,
You guys saw this, I think
Yeah, we
when we
were-
added it up, we added it up at staff meeting, and I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was like 19 times in 24 months we've
Yeah.
modified this fee schedule. So we're on a roll. If you want to go down, yeah, to right here. So you'll see on here, just the land use permit or the license review. Same thing, adding this to it. We need to be charging for staff time.
oh, we did that.
And then Days, if you want to scroll down, that nightly rental license renewal, that's $30 because she's got to go through all that now with our new nightly rental policy, double checking if there's complaints, if there's not. But I think there's that asterisk. If you scroll down to the asterisk, Days, of where it says like, keep going down, where right there, general notes. And then it will talk about additional fees on this asterisk. And the light's shining on it, so I can't read it to you. But it's talking about some of those additional fees. That's to cover the costs of professional services. So those are legal, they're engineers.
So why would a home occupation license be more than a nightly rental license?
No, we don't charge for a home occupation. Go back up. We don't charge the home occupation license. Yeah, that one, we actually don't charge that. That probably needs to come off. Note that on our, will you note that, Days? Yeah, we need to look at that. They can get one if they want one. And I remember what we did. That one was on there. That is not a requirement, but we do have different people sometimes that come in and still want one, and we tell them it's not required, but if they still want to get one, it's something that we've offered in the past. We can, but people aren't coming to get them.
If there's a motion, should we exclude the,
I want to actually run that back through our staff meeting and through Emily. She does our licensing and permitting. She'll double check that, and then you'll see the fee schedule again with us asking to remove that if she determines that.
okay, very good.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard a motion yet.
It just got clouded. We got to include the,
So yeah, up on that land use permit or the license review, on that land use, the permit license review, that one is when these are coming up, right? Like if they're coming up for an annual renewal or different things like that, they've got to be reviewed by staff. And so for that review, we have to pay for the staff, but let's say they submit something and that has to go to engineering, or we have to run it through legal. What that's saying is that whoever it is, and we have them actually sign an agreement that says, hey, we understand that if this is, Daisy, if you want to go back to the fee schedule, it just says that if the fees, if somebody comes in for a license or a renewal and we have to send that to engineering to be reviewed, or we have to send that out to our legal department, the city is not going to absorb those fees. Those fees are passed on to whoever it is submitting the application. And so that's why we needed to put plus additional fees assessed. Mhm.
$30 good enough for what you're doing, for just to do that?
It is if we don't have to send it out. If it's just a real like, hey, have we had any complaints against this nightly rental? Have we had any, or whatever it is. But hey, have we had any complaints? So you'll see, yeah. But those plus additional fees, that's important to have that on there so that we don't get stuck paying to just review and review and review.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes them do that on their own before they come to the city.
So in this motion, we've got to,
Just approve if you have any conditions, or if you like it the way it is, the way.
we wanted to check something out
We're
on
asking.
that.
That's the home occupation. It's not a recommended change, but we have it for staff meeting. So we're just asking that you approve the uniform fee schedule.
Motion that we approve the uniform fee schedule, business item G7.
I would second that motion. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Discussion and possible action, business item number 8, annual meeting scheduled to create an additional planning commission meeting on the 4th Wednesday of each month.
So this was presented to planning commission. Stacy can speak to this one. He's here.
He told me he was opposed to it already.
He loves double the work.
Did or what?
So no, but we changed planning commission from being paid to going to volunteer. Now we're going to ask them to show up to one extra meeting. Sorry, guys. So there's so many things coming down the pike that Riker is working on, ordinances and things. Planning commission has met many times till 10 o'clock or later. And we feel that it'll be more productive. It'll be quicker, for anybody coming in front of the planning commission if we meet twice a month. That way our meetings are, 2 hours instead of 5, because the last hour of the 5th hour is just a wasted time anyway. So anyway, we are requesting that we do additional, but we're also requesting that it actually starts the first or second Wednesday in March, because not enough time to post a meeting schedule for February 27th for next week. So we wouldn't have a meeting for February 27th that we would for March 13th, and then we just go on from there. Does that sound correct?
That's what you want.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And I know you guys went through the dates. So November 27th is the night before Thanksgiving, and then December 24th, I think you guys changed that, didn't you, to something else? So, or did you just cancel that one?
They kept it on there, and then if they want to cancel it, then at that
Okay.
point in
Yeah, they
time,
can
we'll-
cancel any of them,
Okay.
really.
And that's the other thing is if we end up not needing a meeting, it's much easier to cancel a meeting than it is to schedule an extra meeting.
Yeah.
And we'll proceed with this, and maybe in 6 months, if it's not working, then we'll ask you to review it again. You know, we don't want to have a meeting just to have a meeting, but we want to try to be as effective as we possibly can.
Dedication. Yeah, thank you for the
We
dedication.
Appreciate that volunteer
Yeah,
service.
absolutely.
Well, I will make a motion that we approve business item G8, annual meeting schedule to start on the March 13th. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. G9, amending and restating Chapter 7 of the Tocqueville City Code to define the duties of a city cemetery clerk and revise the process of burial for indigents.
So this one is coming before you, yeah, as our, part of our cemetery code. This code was before you a few months ago. We updated it to get state compliance. But in this, the licensing and permitting department is handling cemetery administration. That includes the sales and issuing of permits within city under the general supervision of the cemetery superintendent. So this modification just brings this up to, this modification just brings this into compliance with what's actually happening. It's not the city recorder that's selling these plots or anything. It's the actual cemetery clerk. That's part of her, this is Emily that's doing it currently, but it's part of licensing and permitting as the cemetery clerk. It's in her job description. So this just corrects the wording in there, is that it's whoever's the cemetery clerk. And then if you go down, so that just changes the cemetery from the recorder. And then here, where it says like after the burial, it said the cemetery superintendent, but it is actually the city cemetery clerk that endorses the permit and does that. So that needed to be corrected in our code. It's not a cemetery superintendent, it's actually the cemetery clerk. So then if you go down again, and then actually, if we go back up to that one, just one clarification, you'll see that it says cemetery clerk, cemetery clerk. And then up there where it says city cemetery clerk, that's because it can either be the city clerk or it could be Daisy. As a city, Daisy is also considered a city clerk. So if they need a notary to endorse that permit, it can be Daisy or Emily at this point in time. It can be our cemetery clerk or the city clerk. So that's a clarification. And then if you go down a little bit more to the burial of indigents, on this one, we had to rewrite some of this, and our city attorney is going through this right now to come up with the definition of indigents, and that will be included in the cemetery policy. The definition of indigent will be in the cemetery policy. But on here, what was happening is you can see that it said, whenever it is made to appear to the mayor by proof submitted to him by the city recorder, that any person who has died and does not have an estate sufficient to pay for the purchase of the price of a plot in one of the city's cemeteries, and that the nearest relative or representative of such deceased person who is a resident of the city desires to have the body of such deceased interned in a city-owned cemetery, the mayor may grant burial space for such a deceased person. And so it actually, a couple of issues with that is that the mayor's not always directly aware of how many plots we have. We have a cemetery superintendent, that's JD. And so typically that's done by the cemetery sexton or the cemetery superintendent, not by the mayor. What's that?
Sexton is the same thing as superintendent?
Yeah, it's superintendent for our purposes. Yeah, it's this, the superintendent is the new way that it's done. So the new reading of it is when a representative of a deceased person who meets the criteria of being indigent provides proof to the city. So that could be to the cemetery clerk, it could be to Daisy, but it's to the city, and expresses a desire for internment in a city-owned cemetery. The cemetery superintendent is authorized to allocate burial space for the deceased individual. Additional permission may also be required from the mayor and/or city manager, and that's to make sure that there is some oversight, that it's not just being assigned, And so then one of the main things about this is that the cemetery superintendent will communicate his decision, right? And it does go to the mayor and or the city manager, so we're aware of what they're doing. But the definition of indigent is where we don't offer payment plans on burial. And part of where this came from is to address the burial of indigents that was originally intended to address if there were inmates that needed to be buried that were considered indigent. And so that's where it came in that we needed to have discussion of what was indigent. And so then with ours saying, oh, a resident could potentially be indigent as well. And so we don't want the girls at the front desk to be in a position where they're trying to determine what indigent is, or how do you do that? You bring in a tax return and show that you are not making above the poverty line. It becomes very, very difficult to determine what indigent is. And so we are anticipating that we are going to use like Department of Workforce Services or the state's definition of indigent of whatever theirs is. But the definition of indigent will be in the cemetery policy that we currently have, and that will be through legal. Legal will determine that our definition of indigent is adequate. And so this is the proposed wording so that it's not, how do they make it? In our ordinance, it was like, hey, this section that was under A, that's being the strikeout, that was copied from another municipality's ordinance. It was a good place to start, but now that we're recognizing the issues with it, we're just asking that the wording is updated. So
I'd like to see where it says additional permission may be required. I'd like to see will be required from from either the mayor or city manager, rather than just have one person involved in that decision. Because it is kind of a bit of a subjective decision that's being made.
yeah, and that's why we were saying, having them define what indigent is in the policy. Well, it's saying that they don't have enough money to buy the burial plot, but how do we determine that? And it's saying that they don't have, income. So how do we do that? So the idea of that is that they would have to actually, through workforce services or something like that, or they would just have to, it could be determined that they.
So would this supersede the requirements for, because it's involving money, we're giving something away. We're giving them a free burial plot.
Well, they
So
still.
does that, the mayor just can't decide that, can he, or?
Well,
How
if
can
it's
we
under
cover
it,
that
yeah,
base?
if it's under it, yeah, because,
Plot's still coming.
yeah, so there are limits, right, that a mayor can approve up
Okay.
to without bringing before the council.
Yeah, there's
And it's
plenty of
something that wouldn't cause the cemetery to exceed their budget item for the year. There's line item in the budget that, you know what I mean, that the burial of the plots. When we charge and we have that, yeah, we have a line item that allows. So if he were to give, so that's kind of where Gary's talking about the additional permissions, where it says may be required from that. It's if we look at that, and I like changing that to will be required, and for exactly that, because what things that I'm going to be looking at are going to be, I mean, if it's going to be JD, he's going to be looking at, do we have space in the cemetery, first of all? I'm going to be looking at, will this break that line item of the budget? And so we're going to be looking at, different things.
And evaluating whether it fits the definition of an
Yeah.
indigent. That should
Yeah,
be-
well, for sure, we all will be doing that.
Will's probably better.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of the will, because that will cover looking at it from different angles, for sure.
And then also the fee collection where it identifies it as the cemetery clerk. Are we okay from an audit standpoint with a cemetery clerk collecting money, or should that be the recorders?
She's under licensing and permitting. And so part of our separation of duties is they have a job description. And so technically, like if you pay for a license or a permit in this city and you come through, Hannah will not be taking that. She handles utility billing, but she does not handle the money for licensing and permitting. And the reverse is true. If somebody comes in, wants to pay their utility bill, they do not pay it through Emily. They pay it through Hannah, or it goes up through Ruth.
But I
So
understood we
that's
had
part of our
a
separation of
two-person
duties.
or two-step.
They're trained in it.
Recorder to be
Yep.
the second person involved in auditing that?
The recorder is not, it goes to the treasurer.
The treasurer, I'm sorry.
Treasurer,
Right,
yep.
okay.
So if Hannah collects the funds, it goes up through the treasurer. If So the way that it actually works, yeah. And then Emily, if she collects it, it also goes up through Ruth. And then at the end of every day, they certify this is how much money that we took in. Each of them fill out a separate sheet, and that goes to Ruth's office. And then she makes the deposits. And then Hannah turns in her report to me. Emily returns her report into me, and then Ruth turns in her report, and then I reconcile that all of those match. So
Okay.
that's how we do it. That's one of our high points on the audit of the separation of duties.
So are we gonna change this a little bit? So Daisy
change one word.
doesn't
One word.
determine who's the indigent? Have that,
One
No, that's going to be, the definition of an indigent will be in the policy.
in,
So it won't be in the ordinance. So that can be taken care of later.
perfect.
And
Yeah.
we are doing this out of the goodness of our heart
No, it was a requirement that we address the burial of indigents.
by,
Well, coming down through the state code, it's part of public health, safety and welfare. You've got to have somebody
the state is mandating that we have a avenue.
to bury indigents. Yeah, we have to address how we would do it. Yes.
So the state.
I mean, they don't say, oh, you will take them on and you will do this and you will have, I mean, they don't say like, you will have 17 places available to bury them. But reasonably speaking, you have to do a duty of best effort to have somewhere to put indigent.
And then you're striking out a resident of the city as a requirement for an indigent to be buried. Why are,
The state can bury someone in your cemetery that's not a resident.
okay, well,
If someone passed away in the Utah State Penitentiary,
Yeah, no, I
the
get that
state could
example.
bury them
I
there.
get
So we
that
can't have
example.
that we can only have residents
so
here.
if the state is going to require us to bury an inmate who passed away, are we getting funds for that from the state or from the penitentiary?
Be burial of indigents, no.
So the state is mandating us to
That's why
do
we
something
may.
and they're not giving us any.
We should be considered,
reimbursement.
they would work with us to say, oh, we see that you have a policy, or we see this, or you know what I mean? They have
Well, no, I
avenues.
understand, but we're being dictated by the state here to do something without getting any funds to do it. How much does it cost how much would it cost to somebody to be buried in the cemetery?
What, it's on our fee schedule, $700, I think is
So then the state's
non-resident.
mandating that the city spend $700 to bury a indigent that came out of one of the state prisons. That is
Yeah, they could do that. They could tell us that we are going to
And not
bury
pay
somebody
for
here.
And
Yeah,
not-
if they have a
and not-
reason, if they qualify as indigent, that's why we want to use the state's definition
I would think
or one of those.
That's, I see your point, then I don't, now that as soon as you said a state mandate, then I want to see the mandate.
Yeah.
Why would they want to do that? Why would they want to just say, hey, Tokyo, sorry, you're going to take this guy?
Well, a lot of times it happens because the cemeteries are the most affordable. If your fees are low and they've got to do it, they can pass through some funds, but they look for fees that are low. If the person does have any money at all, it will go toward that if they have money on their books or things. But it's,
Charles Manson.
well, pass the policy, pass the ordinance. Well, it is, and we do have a responsibility to, I mean, we do have residents that are and some other people,
No,
I mean,
that's
people who are not here.
But I agree with you, that's residents, and I mean, I could see a reason for us if we have indigent residents to have a policy.
That's
for
kind of what I
that.
was thinking it was, but
So, but to, you
It's going to
know,
be,
what about a special spot? I mean, go ahead and pick 5 spots somewhere now. And then people don't want to be buried next to some people sometimes, so they gotta have a choice.
You're gonna kill him again.
Who am I getting buried next to, you know? I don't know, that's kind of weird. You open up Pandora's box here.
okay, so
Well, cremate them.
well, that was gonna be my next question. That's my next question is,
I don't think we have a
was really-
choice.
well, my next question would be, is there an avenue in the state of Utah? Is there an avenue in Washington County where indigents are cremated?
I would ask that you pass this ordinance and we can bring it back in front of you if that changes. That will take some, but we actually have pending on this that we need to address.
Yeah, so Bergen have to do this? LaBergen's got to do all this? Do they have this already in there?
We're ahead of the game.
Let's not get it.
We don't have a
So-
choice. We're ahead of the game. I can't say if they do or they don't. I know that Springdale has done a ton of work on their ordinance. That's where we actually got a lot of this from. When we first brought this before you, we had done that.
Let me clarify this. This is currently an ordinance in the city. that
Correct.
We have a policy to bury indigents. So what we're looking.
Ordinance to do, what you're looking at is the actual ordinance that's in effect
looking at
right now.
Redlining the current ordinance and modifying the language.
Yes.
Here. So whether we want to have them or not currently is not the question.
Right.
Unless
We
want-
currently allow for the burial of indigents in this city.
Who are residents. That's
Mhm.
what it says.
Mhm.
So that's the current,
Yes.
right. So you said you had something pending. Is it a resident?
Somebody waiting?
Yes.
Well, it's a complicated situation. It's, yes, and a person making a request is not, the person is not feeling well. The person is not feeling well. It's not funny because it's like the person is not feeling well. The family's concerned that it's might go the opposite way. The person who would request it is not a resident. The person is, they haven't been here for 12 months. So we get into this, are they a resident? Are they not? And so that part is very convoluted. So we would like to remove the word resident and just that we will consider these. I mean, it's, yeah, Daisy has a comment. It's,
So on state code, Title 8 is cemeteries. Chapter 5, Section 8 is rights and title and cemetery laws. And it does say the owner, guarantee, or person claiming due shall have the right on presentation of the certificate of title or right to burial to a municipality or cemetery maintenance district.
Say that again?
For free?
Say that again or?
She's calling it
But,
up.
yeah, well, I'm not sure. what
Thank you for catching that.
Wayne said you'd like to see it. There it is.
I
Wayne.
like, that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Where's this coming from?
state code.
Where does it say that?
Utah
Oh,
state
Utah
legislation
legislation.
at the top there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Reasonable value, but we raised our rates and then it's obviously if they don't even have the ability to pay that.
Opinion of the municipality.
Mhm.
The title, but specifically.
The option,
Right.
yeah.
Be
So-
compensated for the lot.
So reading this, you're telling, what I'm reading, correct me, is that the state's going to reimburse us.
Well, and then it says, yeah, reasonable.
A reasonable value.
Mhm. As of that date, it doesn't mean it's going to be the actual value. They could determine that our fees are high and say, oh, we'll reimburse you what we think is reasonable. Your surrounding cemeteries are only charging 200. So we think that's reasonable
Right.
as of the
It's
date.
not
of this.
arbitrary what they decide,
Right. And so,
but it's something.
so we can go tighter than state code. We just can't go more broad than state code. Ours is,
What does that option mean?
which one?
At the option of the municipality or cemetery maintenance district. It's at our option to grant him. That's the way I'm reading that.
Yeah.
It doesn't say we have to, it's at our option.
I think you'd be hard pressed to get out of that.
Did you not see option?
Yeah, I think,
So what's the opinion here on option? I mean, I don't want to be,
So
people need a place to get buried, but yes, burying somebody that's come out of the pen that maybe killed somebody or something, I have, my opinion is no.
Show some compassion though. You know, we're all God's children. So what if somebody's made a mistake and?
it's not going to break our budget.
No,
I mean,
Well,
really, let's think about this. compassion. So,
Once again, wouldn't the mayor or city manager decide whether to charge a fee or not? And leave it up to them. They're asked, so.
And
The-
if
the
we're being
permission-
realistic, most of these people live within, and I know there's a separation obviously between church and state, but more often than not, even under what Stacy's saying, compassionate services, more often than not, there is a religious, whether it's LDS, Catholic, Baptist, it doesn't matter. Usually there's some sort of religion, religious affiliation that steps in and pays. That says, hey, sometimes it's like, this person is in our ward. We would like to do that. So ours, yeah, there are different times for indigents specifically, like they just can't afford to pay. And there are other times where, under just compassionate services, it's been considered, but it's usually, even if they're indigent, it's usually paid for by a ward or.
Well, I have compassion for indigent people, but I probably don't have compassion for the previous.
Well, I think, Wayne, that last line there, additional permission, we're changing that word to will. Additional permission will also be required from the mayor and/or the city manager. And I think we need to be able to just basically decide if we're going to just trust the mayor and city manager to do the right thing, whether there's funds available to collect or whether it's a situation where we have to.
I don't think it's about the funds, but.
Right.
I agree with what Stacy's saying, the compassion. I agree with that, Stacy. And I just don't want to open up a can of worms to anybody. So I kind of like that resident idea. I mean, I would be concerned that all over the state now, hey, Tokerville.
Yep, you're right.
I'm
Exactly right. I mean, you're right. You're right.
So in regards to the resident comment, how the code reads now, it's not the person being buried that has to be a resident. It's a representative of that person has to be a resident. So the person being buried, according to our code now, is not required to be a resident. It's just their representative or nearest relative has to be a
if you want
resident.
your mother to be buried next to you here in Tokerville.
And she lives out of town.
She's not a resident.
And you don't have any money to pay for it. You
Her.
can say that, to pay for the burial, you can.
Yeah.
I mean, how often really is someone going to be buried here that doesn't have a connection to Tokerville?
A resident, yeah.
Yeah.
I would move that we go ahead and approve business item G9 and simply change the word may to will. I've made a motion.
I heard that motion. There's a lot of. Yeah. Whoever brought up the dark side made this hard. I would second it.
Okay, any other discussion on this?
Yeah, I have just, trying to digest what Riker said about the way the previous code.
Yeah, that's,
Whenever it is made to appear to the mayor by proof submitted to him by the city recorder that any person who has died does not have an estate sufficient to pay the purchase price of a plot in one of the city cemeteries, and that nearest relative or representative of such deceased person who is a resident of the city desires to have the body of such deceased interned in a city-owned cemetery, the mayor may grant burial space for such a deceased person. Okay, so if somebody's had a whatever, a parent, somebody, and that person was indigent, and one of our residents wanted to bury him here in this city, then that would be allowed on the old code, correct? Right? That's the way the old code read.
The old,
Yeah, that's the way the current code is. And we're changing that to just take that out, which technically could open it up to anybody who was indigent and wanted to come from any city in the county or the state.
And I
or-
think that's what's going to fall under that additional permission, right? Because we're not going to open it up for lots of reasons to just.
So additional permission, we also, so does that?
will also be required is what my motion was.
Right, so additional permission will also be required from the mayor or city manager. Does that open us up to possible legal ramifications?
We'll contact legal and ask them.
Well, that's what I'm saying though, but if we pass this right now, does that open us up to legal ramifications in the sense that we're allowing this person here to do that, but then somebody else from another city is just saying, well, you just did it for that person and now you're denying me. What is the criteria that we're going to have set here for
That
the
comes
mayor?
under the definition of indigent, which will be in our policy.
That doesn't. If you're going to deny, somebody in Washington, their parents pass away, they're indigent, they hear that Tokerville is doing this, and we deny it for whatever reason, and then somebody else from Santa Clara comes in and we approve it, don't we need criteria to how we're going to approve things and deny things? Because then we're just arbitrarily setting ourselves for legal action.
Well, that's what I'm saying will be in the policy. He's going to determine indigent. So it's not like we're going to turn them down because they're from Washington, or that we're not going to turn them down based on location of request.
So anybody then theoretically anywhere could come to
They be
Tokerville
considered.
again. Yes, you just said they could be considered. So what are the criteria we're going to use to consider that?
If
It's
they're
just going to be based on indigent. So everybody that's indigent across the United States can come to Tokerville and be buried as long as they're indigent. That's the only criteria we're going to use.
Well, for one, I mean, it's going to be this is specific to the burial of indigents. So for this purpose, yes.
So theoretically, yes, and somebody from anywhere could come here and be buried as long as they're indigent.
If
We're giving-
if we have space, do we have burial space? We don't have burial space for indigents currently. We really don't.
Then why are we even talking about this then? If we don't have space, then why are we even discussing this?
We have space in our cemetery, but that's one of the criteria. So what do you suggest?
I suggest that we said, I agree with Gary, additional permission will be required from the mayor or city manager.
It's going to be based on space for one.
Well,
So it's gonna be
I think that we
considered.
need to set up, what is that additional permission required?
How much space do we need? I mean, if you fill it up with indigents, then there's no place to bury me.
So part of the ordinance, as it reads now at the beginning, says that the city council may, by resolution, designate a portion of any of the city cemeteries to the burial of indigents.
That's what I was
So you
looking
have
for.
to
We have that in there.
designate that section
It says
first.
you may.
And it says you may.
You may.
If that section's not designated,
Yeah.
So how many,
They could. Okay.
how
Yeah,
many
you
how many
have the
burial sites do we have left in the cemetery?
Geez, not very many. How many do we have? Days, do you know?
Not enough for
We
the
can pull up our
number of
cemetery.
homes that are coming in.
We got that whole section still, don't we?
We're anticipating that we're going to have to get an entire new cemetery within literally within the next 3 to 5 years. We're going to have, yes.
So the west is filling up fast, huh?
There's a lot of reserved.
Yeah, I got 4 of them, so I'm probably okay.
So
Where are the rest of them, Wayne?
I appreciate the work that you guys have done on this, but I think for me personally, there's just too many gray areas that I would like to see spelled out. So there's a motion and a second, so.
So you have to take a vote.
Well, we can, or we can just send it back.
Well, you have a motion and a second, so you have to take a vote on the motion.
Or they can rescind it.
Or you can say,
What's on your mind? What's on anybody's mind?
Well, let me just also say this. We only have 3 people here. So you have to, for something to pass, you have to have 3 in the same direction. So if you vote yes and you vote yes and you vote no, it's not going anywhere anyway. Nothing's happening. The ordinance is staying exactly as it is. So that's one thing you can consider.
Or table.
Or you can rescind it and you could table it for further, whatever you'd like to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have a couple of different options. You don't have to pass it. You don't have to, you know what I mean? You don't have to table it. You can take a vote and it can die or whatever you'd like to do.
Well,
Do you have any suggestions? This is where I was asking Todd, like, what would you like to
are
do?
you saying or you want to have a resident of the city?
I think that would be an important discussion, that we should have a resident of the city. I mean, I understand.
But
I understand.
Eliminate the rest of the,
But on the other hand, too, I mean, if I move out of here in 5 years and go away and live in somewhere else, and then I croak off, or my kid's gonna want me back here and I can't be buried here?
Well,
Say you go to a nursing home. Now you're no longer a resident.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically, yeah. So
Right.
Yeah.
we have to protect the heritage of Tocqueville and the extended heritage. So can't we just create some, like, maybe 5 lots right now and that's it for indigent people? And then deal with this when they get full, if they get full, and see how it turns out?
Yeah,
If they
that's
fill up by tomorrow, then we got a problem.
So that's the part that lets you do the resolution, is the resolution, the part that allows you to designate a part. It's a resolution, not this ordinance.
I think that's the way to do it. From listening to everybody, which I appreciate everybody's comments because we're open here. And I think that might be the way to look at it, is we can't hold the residents because of that reason, but we can reserve minimal spaces right now for that. And then if they fill up immediately or really quick, then we know we got a problem, but they're full. Then we can stop or do something, say no more.
yeah, you could also add resident or former resident. So if you are now in a assisted living somewhere,
Yes.
we could put former resident.
Yes.
But again, if you want your family member to be buried next to you, they've never lived here.
We could keep that part in then of who is a resident of the city or former resident of the
I think people
relative.
come here that's never lived in this town and are buried in there,
Sure.
Yeah.
But they pay for it.
You can pay for it and buy it.
They pay for it, sure.
I'd be willing to set aside whatever number you pick of lots to get rid of this. And we got 5 spots for indigent people. That's and then we will review it after that 5 is gone or something.
It's a good idea.
Because it could snowball into something that we became a destination for. If everybody else turns.
That's against
down the
That's against the general plan to try to become a destination, Wayne.
You could make it, because if everybody else says no, they're all gonna bring them to here, because that's what they want to do. Let's just, how many lots we want, or we want to review this or rescind it and table it and talk with the other members, but I think that's the most amicable solution to this
You want to amend the motion?
problem.
Do you want to amend the motion to a table?
No, I would rescind the motion and then make a motion to table it.
Okay.
To give you some time to think about it. We'll come back with some
You wanna table it?
solutions. Pardon? We'll come back with some solutions after we table it. So I move that we table
That's
this.
true. We go through the whole routine again because they're going to have different.
Well, if
But
we have
that's good. That's
if
what
we
we
have a
want.
solution, then it won't
I like
take
that.
as long.
Let's go
All right?
that route. I like it.
So I would move that we go ahead and table item, discussion and possible action on amending, pardon me. Where am I here? Number 9, city code to define duties of the city cemetery clerk and revise the process of the burial of indigents.
I second it.
All in favor? Oh, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Tabled. Calendar of events.
No, you got number 10.
Yeah, we got,
Oh, discussion possible action on Tocqueville City flag display.
I thought we had this out
So
of our life.
this actually, I want to just kind of give an update. The reason this is back on the agenda, so we had this flag discussion, and when we talked about that at that time, there were lights that we could put on flags that the council asked us to look into those. JD has looked into those. He sent a message. He was able to find some lights that would work on top of the flags. And so this is going to be, I mean, obviously for your discussion, but it's more of just to kind of give you an update on what's going on with that. So for that, we called in 2 public works on President's Day. We put up the flags in the morning and we took them down at night. So JD has been able to find some lights that could go on the top of the flag. We've got 60 flags on Toker Boulevard. Those lights are $30 a piece, so $1,800 total.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah, so
The flag can be enveloped in dark. So if you're by that street light or a couple away from it, you don't need them lights. It's
Right.
just when you get in the middle of the block that's with the
Yep.
dark.
Right, so we're just giving you the overalls of what we're doing. So what we're doing is we're looking at those lights that, so we were asked to get a quote for what the lights would be. The worst case scenario is we have they're about $30 a piece. We have 60 flags on Toker Boulevard total. So the worst case scenario would be $1,800. What we're now looking at is, so we called in 2 public works to put those flags up and take those flags down. So the next step is we're going to run an analysis of their payroll and see what that cost, because we did have to pay them holiday pay to work on a holiday. So we're going to do an analysis and present that to the council of this is how much it cost us to actually have public works, their hourly wage, the holiday pay, their benefits that go along with that. And so we'll run that analysis and see what that cost us per day to put up and take down. And then we'll times that by how many holidays we have. And so we'll get a total of what it costs us for wages and benefits to have them put up and take down. And then we'll weigh it and see. We know that not every flag, but we know worst case scenario, it's going to cost $1,800 to put a light on every single flag on Toker Boulevard. And like you said, not every flag is going to need them, but we know worst case scenario, it would be $1,800 if all of them. So if our wages come out to be $2,000, right? Then it's cheaper to buy the lights because we know we're not going to need them on all of them. In worst case scenario, it's $1,800. So just to, all we're doing is letting you know that we have not just let this fall by the wayside. We are actually working on that. We're getting quotes on the lights to see what they would be. But the next step in the process, we just got the quote on the lights today. So we did not have a time to do and they just put up on Monday was when they put up and took down the flags. So we haven't had a chance to see it come through on payroll to see what the wages and benefits are. So this is just more of an update for your discussion. If there's anything else you want us to consider while it's ongoing.
Well,
I think you can beat the time because I watched it. I think you don't need to put the flag rolled up, put the truck, jump back in the truck, go to the next flag 30 feet down, get out of the truck, and they could beat that time by a long ways.
Okay.
More efficient use of their. Yeah.
Okay.
I was kind of watching that to see, and I was trying to wait a little towards sunset I could see what maybe would be lit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they wiped them out faster than I had a chance to do that, but yeah.
So my comment would be, I know Tocqueville City has 2 hours invested in this with payroll and benefits for holiday pay, but does the BSA, Boy Scouts of America, charge us? And does the LDS Church charge us?
No,
Put those
they do
flags
their own. We've purchased enough flags for all of Toker Boulevard, so they put them up. But if they cannot make it on one of those holidays, then we call in our public works.
I'm looking at a schedule here that shows Tocqueville City with 4 assignments and BSA with 4 and then Tocqueville Third with 4.
Right.
So I didn't know if we could find another volunteer so that way the city wouldn't have to pay those expenses, number one. And number two, my question is why the Tocqueville Third Ward is the only one that's volunteering to put the flags out, and why it wouldn't be Tocqueville First Ward or.
Can't answer that. They just
second
have not.
Question for the bishop.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not the bishop. I'm the city manager.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair that one ward is volunteering, the other 2 don't have an opportunity to serve the city. And if it's possible, I think we ought to get another ward to volunteer to cover the city's expenses on it.
Kind of like the 24th of July, they've kind of backed out of that.
Yeah, they do.
Churches have. I don't
They
know
rotate.
why.
Are you doing sign language?
She's just saying that they rotate, which they do, but it's the third ward that
Oh.
organizes, steps up, does it.
So there, okay.
Why they
So-
don't all take. a
So to
set.
follow up on Gary's comment question, so when the Boy Scouts and the ward take it over, they're doing the boulevard too,
The flags, they put up and take down those flags.
along the boulevard? Okay. Okay. So then to Gary's point, right now, the city's only doing 4. So at whatever did you say that? I'm sorry, I may have missed that when you were working on your
I was just saying our
analysis.
schedule stayed the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, when you were working on your analysis of what it costs to
Only
hire-
calculating what ours are.
You're only,
Yeah, we're only calculating what ours are.
okay.
And then, you know what I mean? And then,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, okay, I,
there might be, a couple of, maybe 2 more or something that we do throughout the year. It just kind of depends, but.
to follow up though, does the Boy Scouts or the ward, are they, is it up and down over the weekend on like or is it just the one
They're up and
time?
down same day.
So just the day of the holiday?
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Unless there's some language, and if there's
Okay.
a weekend that's in the way, then they get picked up the following day.
Morning, yeah.
okay, so then that would be a problem because then they're up overnight, not
Right.
lit.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right, and then, okay, and that's fine. And the only other, I'm sorry.
See something
The
here.
only other comment I had on the second page is Flag Day is always June 14th,
Flag Day is always June
June
14th.
14th. So we should add that on there.
So,
And then going back to, I'm sorry, Gary, there you go.
so is the city responsible for putting flags up on local businesses and also the LDS Church? Because they're listed as areas for the flag to be displayed.
We're talking about Toker Boulevard.
Okay, but pull up that other thing. Oh, right there, it says flag display areas. And it says daily, City Hall, City Park, Cemetery, LDS Church, and local businesses. So I'm trying to understand then, is the city,
This is, well,
Making-
so part of this too, right, is offering recommendations for flag etiquette. So it's just saying if you're a local business, make sure you're taking yours up, right, on the daily, taking it
Okay.
down and putting it up.
because I thought this ordinance applied to the city only and that residents were not going to be.
Well, it's not an
no
ordinance.
enforcement.
It's not an ordinance. It's just a policy of like, hey, this is how we generally do it. Yeah. If you want to, you know what I mean? If you want to take out local businesses, that's fine, but it's just something to give our residents something to, look at too.
Okay, so there's no enforcement, so to speak.
Yeah, there's no
This is
enforcement
just
for
a
this.
Recommendation.
We just wanted to have something for our Public Works Department. It just doesn't exist in the city, so we just want to have some guidelines for our Public Works Department. I mean, that's really what it came out of,
All right.
trying to see how we should hang the flag in Tokerville.
A couple of those flags are like 5 feet apart, so there must be houses and something.
Right, there could be houses that are putting flags up as well.
Yeah.
So you need a motion to go ahead and approve this policy?
No, well, we're not, we just, it says possible action, but it's
Right.
just supposed to be discussion. I mean, you can just make a motion to table it again, just while we work on it. We just want to give you an update of where we are on it.
Okay, so, well,
Eventually, yes, we're going to ask you to make a motion to pass the flag etiquette policy. But first, we want to do,
you want to make a motion tonight?
the analysis.
What's wrong with it? What you got to change?
Yeah, but the only thing we got to decide whether is, like, unless we want to leave it up to the staff to decide whether it's more economical and advantageous to buy the lights for the flags or to hire the public work employees to take it up and down. So if we're happy with,
I want to change, exactly.
that's up to the staff to determine then.
Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
fine
This
with
is this is just a policy, an equity policy.
It's just a policy.
They can decide how they want to do it. Spend the money or
Yeah.
not spend the money, or less lights or fewer lights, and
I move that we go ahead
Approve, yeah.
and approve business item G10,
Because it's just a
policy,
policy.
Tocqueville City flag display policy.
We add in the,
That was a motion.
we add in,
Flag Day?
adding, Flag Day, June 14th.
And add in Flag Day date as June 14th. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that. Do we need to add, allowing the staff to side lights or staff or any of that?
It's
kind
a
of stuff?
policy
So,
decision.
it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, perfect.
All right. No. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Calendar events, State of the City, Wednesday, the 28th. Our mayor will be making a presentation that day. Budget strategy session, I think that the entire city council should try to attend that. And as well as citizens, if those that are interested in how the money's being spent and what we're planning. That's for the 24-25 budget.
Correct.
Okay. The spring community cleanup, March 15th through Monday and March 18th. Through Monday, March 18th, okay. Easter egg hunt, Saturday, March 30th at Center Street Park. Spring social on Wednesday, the 24th at Center Street Park. And then 4th of July celebration on Thursday, July 4th. At that point, I would like to close this session at 8:42.
Thank you.
Told my wife it was going to be an hour.